The story begins with a young guy texting someone on his phone, showing signs of grief. He's crying because his girlfriend expressed her desire to break up with him in a message. A very sad Chenyuan decides to reply to the message, eager to find out what happened to his friend, Tong Tong. He thinks about how he and his roommates played Truth or Dare, and the guy does not believe that he could be betrayed like that. They had the potential for a happy family, 2 wonderful children, a house, and a car, and the guy was willing to work hard to make that dream come true. He assumes that it all happened because he didn't buy the Toon Toon handbag, and he was collecting money and planning to buy it next month after receiving the scholarship, but the message never reached her due to the restriction of the circle of people. The neighbors immediately notice that something is wrong with their friend. With a loud knock on the table, the hero gets up from his workplace and leaves. Closing the door behind them, the guys discuss that this is already the 6th time in a month that Chen Yuan has broken up with his girlfriend. This sad guy, Chen Yuan, he got the nickname of Sticky after he persecuted Lin Shitong 3 years ago. The girl was against this, embarrassed to be near him and afraid that others would see them together. Although the awkward hero understood her displeasure, he persuaded her, offering her her favorite roast pork and begging her not to talk about the breakup anymore. Lin Shutong was not angry with him because her ex-boyfriend was sincerely seeking their reunion, and she realized that she really needed him. This answer angered the hero even more, who considered himself her only and beloved boyfriend. Her ex-boyfriend cheated on her before, and now she's giving him a chance again. At this time, the ex-boyfriend drove up in a brand new Mercedes and invited the girl to go with him. With equanimity, the lady gets into the car and warns that it is better not to meet again, so that her current boyfriend does not misunderstand such friendship. And so, the car with the ex-girlfriend drives away, returning to her previous boyfriend. The fried pork that the hero so carefully chose for a gift ends up being thrown into the trash. A trash can sits next to a supermarket, which the guy decides to visit to buy groceries. He genuinely didn't understand why no one appreciated his sincerity, and in his own eyes he considered himself so unremarkable that he had to suck up to everyone. Chen Yuan also sincerely believed that politeness was something normal, and after all, it was part of his character. Anger penetrated every cell of his body, and he realized that he needed to express his feelings properly, and then he would be perceived not as a sycophant, but as a real gentleman. At that moment, the most powerful system of the stick identified a suitable candidate for the role of host, and the connection began. Suddenly, a notification from the system appeared above the hero with his characteristics, where, to his surprise, it was indicated that he had 90 quadrillion yuan in his account. Not understanding what was happening, he tried to figure out what this system was doing. The outraged girl, who called him a pervert, ordered him to keep his hands to himself. She noticed that from the very beginning the guy looked at her strangely, and it seemed that he was not all right in his head. Using the system, the hero managed to find out the name of the girl. Her name was Shu Lele, 21 years old, 165 centimeters tall, 49 kilograms weight, attractiveness index 7.9, and her disposition towards the owner was 50. This skill was truly amazing, and the system notified that after reaching the favorability parameter of 96 points, it would be possible to carry out a counterattack, and she would become a fan of the owner. With every second, the hero was even more shocked and realized that now he needed to spend money on women, and he had 90 quadrillion in his account. The entire amount was on the card provided by the system, but only women could use it. When a card user becomes a fan of the owner, a tenth of the amount spent is credited to the owner's personal account and can be used as desired, and in addition, the owner can receive other rewards. In an instant, the guy realized that this was his chance, and he could use this girl as a guinea pig. Using all his charm skills, Chen Yuan asked the girl not to get angry, since today he was paying all the expenses. The system immediately sent a notification that the implementation of the sticky system was successful. The task was to carry out a counterattack with Shulele, and the reward for completing the task was 10% of system funds and 5 enhancement points, which could be used by the owner to improve physical characteristics. The hero's words struck the girl, and she thought that this guy was pretending to be rich, trying to impress her, and she decided to check what he was really capable of doing. It turned out that this was Shulele, the first beauty of the Faculty of Arts, and the guy had previously heard that she knew how to spend other people's money. Just a few words were enough for him to spend 30,000 yuan on her. The cunning hero asked her to refrain from blaming him, claiming that if she didn't try, she wouldn't know what he was capable of. The girl exclaimed that today was a beautiful day and suggested that Bogach treat all his classmates at the buffet, and she also asked him to help with the financial side of this issue. While he was transferring the money, the girl was thinking that this liar was dressed like a beggar, but was trying to impress her, and she wanted to show him what real shame was. Without hesitation, under the influence of the system, the hero easily transferred 50,000 yuan to the girl's account. Everyone around was amazed, because this guy, who seemed completely inconspicuous, suddenly transferred 50,000 yuan as if it was small change to him, and now it turned out that he was actually a major. For him, 50,000 yuan did not seem like a lot of money now. The skillful brave decided to find out if this amount was enough to get her phone number. This act shocked the girl, and she realized that she was mistaken, and this guy is really a major. Realizing this, she knew what to do. The cunning Shulele said that she could easily give her phone number, and it was no problem for her. But first, she suggested going to one place together to see how long he could hold out. The events took place in the city at night, next to many shops. Passing through another elite store, the girl wanted to find out what he was really capable of, not considering her materialistic. She just wanted to understand how sincere and serious Chen Yuan was towards her. With a smile, the hero knew that the more she spent, the more she would get back to him, so this was not a problem for him at all. Chen said no problem, and she can choose what she likes, and the system at the same time warned him that this girl should tame her appetite to conquer human nature, and this is a wonderful sample for testing the system. Entering an elite store, some lady began to look at expensive bags and asked Chen Yuan if this handbag suited her, and the hero heard this. Turning around, he saw his ex-girlfriend, who was showing the bag to her ex and asking if it suited her. At this time, Lin Shutong also noticed her ex-boyfriend, which left her stunned. Confused, the hero continued to stand still and did not know what to do. Without being at a loss, Shulele walked up to him, snuggled closer, and said that his ex-girlfriend was here at the wrong time. Having overcome his awkwardness, the guy only said that everything was fine, and he was glad that she was here. While Shule was asking the consultant about the handbag from the spring show, this very handbag was the only one that was available. Meanwhile, another client, Lin Shutong, was trying on this handbag. The ex-girlfriend had begun to feel that Chen Yuan couldn't just leave her alone, and now she wanted to show him that a loser like him couldn't compete with her new boyfriend, Zhongkai. The joyful girl again exclaimed to her boyfriend that her birthday was coming up and she really wanted this bag. He also didn't like it because the girl was lying because she had just celebrated her birthday. The liar again said that it was a lunar birthday and that there would be a solar birthday soon. Junkai, after listening to her, immediately thought about the answer to give her. And with politeness, he told her to listen to him carefully because she knew that he did not like materialistic girls, and he wanted to find out if they were dating not only because he had money. This question shocked the girl, and she was confused, not knowing what to answer. A moment later, someone began to take Lin Shtong's bag. It was Shu Lele, who apologized and said that if the girl was not going to buy it, she would take it for herself. Thanks to this, 20 points were added to Xu Lele's position in front of Chen Yuan. And when he paid with a card issued by the system, something else happened. Another 20 points were added to the hero's favor due to the lucky girl. The guy really liked this, because now he realized that the real power of money is just a bag, and he already has 60 points in his pocket, and apparently, at this rate, a couple more bags and they will reach their goal. The smart hero also realized that the cash back could be even greater, and he began to think about how to increase it. At this time, the store consultants wondered why those who look rich are so stingy with their partners, while those who look ordinary are willing to spend large sums. And the store manager repeatedly told them that they should not judge by appearance, because it can be deceiving. The ex-girlfriend was at a loss and did not understand why everything had turned out this way, because she was trying to make an impression, but failure was inevitable. Xu Lili gloated and thought that now she had taken both the bag and the guy from the right owner. The lady immediately realized that such a benefit could not be missed. Regarding the modest young man, she said kind words, calling him generous. The ex-girlfriend, watching this, could not come to terms with this turn of events and began to cry. Unable to bear this scene, Lin Shutong lost her temper and pushed her ex away, crying out that this had become too much. While Chen Yuan realized that this was just the beginning, not the end. The system has identified a second object. This object turned out to be Lin Shutong, an age 21 years old, height 163 centimeters, weight 49 kilos, attractiveness rating 7.5 points, disposition towards the owner -10 points. The system warned that as soon as the favorability indicator reaches 96 points, it will be possible to carry out a counterattack, and she will become a fan of the owner, and the reward for successfully completing the maneuver, 10% of the system bank and 20 units of reinforcement. The cunning lady at the time asked the guy if he was consoled by this behavior, because she was ready to joke and was curious where they would go next. After thinking a little, the hero confidently declared that they would go spend the money, because one handbag would clearly not be enough. Xu Lele and Chen Yuan went shopping, looking for various items. All the goods they chose were exquisite and expensive, because they were purchased in luxury stores. In addition to the things that the girl chose, the hero asked to wrap all other purchases, the payment for which would be made using the card. The consultants readily agreed to pack and deliver the goods to the specified address, and the girl understood that men with financial stability were extremely attractive. With each purchase made, Xu Lele's favor increased by 5 points. In this store, they bought a lot of expensive cosmetics, perfumes, and other goods that are not available to everyone. Hundreds of thousands of clothes were also purchased, which greatly increased her favor. The smart girl said that was enough. Otherwise, she was afraid that all these purchases would not fit in her apartment. This was not a problem for Chen Yuan, because he could even afford to buy an apartment. This statement did not please the lady, and she said that it was just a joke at their first meeting and was not worth such a serious investment. The guy then realized that he seemed to have scared her, and if they had told him that they would buy him a house worth several million, and he didn't like it, then he would have experienced some difficulties. After thinking a little, he introduced Xu Lele, a third-year student at the Institute of Arts, 21 years old, height 165 centimeters, weight 49 kilograms. The color of her favorite clothes is black. Her preferred music is Korean. Her zodiac sign is Capricorn. Her shoe size is 37, and she loves horror movies. But more, I'm afraid to walk down the street alone at night. The guy asked what he would do in this situation if she didn't like his behavior. After contacting the consultant, he decided to inquire about the store having a loyalty card, and he was going to top it up with 500,000 so that the next time she visited the store, she could be recommended the best products. This card was offered to the girl to smooth out the impression after a bad joke about buying an apartment, which scared the girl. The girl was amazed and grateful for such a surprise. Chen Yuan approached and asked if she had any other suggestions. At these words, the girl pushed him away and called him a pervert. Meanwhile, the system notified that Shu Lel's favor had increased by another 30 points. The sellers were discussing how this guy is not remarkable looking, but is so rich and generous, and Chen Yuan smiled, thinking that if he has money, then he can afford everything and behave the way he wants and take care of his woman. Shu Lele noticed that the guy bought a lot of gifts for her, while he didn't buy anything for himself. Waving his arms, he announced that he had absolutely no money for his needs. The savvy girl decided that now it was her turn to please him with a gift. At that moment, the thought occurred to her that if she wanted to keep him in the long term, then she should also invest. Events developed until late in the evening, and the heroes never left the store. With love and attention, the lady chose clothes for the hero, offering many options. They also visited a hair salon to get the main character's hair done. After the transformation, the hero looked great in new clothes, neat and well-groomed. The girl liked this even more, and her disposition increased by another 5 points. In her eyes, he became even more attractive, and all he needed was a little effort. The hero himself felt awkward, and despite his adult age, this was the first time he had encountered something like this, and fortunately, he did not have to pay for it. Shu Lele asked him to relax, saying that they looked great together now. Suddenly, she decided to let go of his hand. As she blew a kiss goodbye, she admitted that she was happy and grateful for this day, and for a moment, she even thought she was in love. Thanks to this day, Shu Lele's disposition reached 68 points. Events unfolded in the hero's home, where he had just returned. Upon entering the room, his neighbors were amazed by his appearance, not expecting to see such a neat and well-groomed Chen Yuan. Then he told them about his date with Shu Lele. In shock, the guys couldn't understand how such a guy could date the beautiful Shu Lele, the first lady of the Faculty of Arts, and they were worried about what would happen to him if he was dumped again. The other guy noticed that this girl was clearly out of his league, but they didn't know that the guy had access to the system. Suddenly, his ex texted, suggesting they unfriend each other, claiming that they could avoid the hate. Fortunately, these manipulations no longer work for him. If they delete each other, then he will not be able to earn extra money from her. Saying that she was a special person to him, the ex explained that she was not dating Junkai for money, but because her mother was sick and she needed 50,000 yuan for treatment. At that very second, the required 50,000 yuan arrived in Lin Shutong's account. At this time, some girl started screaming in her house in surprise. It was Lin Shutong, who just mentioned that she needed money, and her ex-boyfriend had already transferred the funds, and the neighbor wanted to figure out who this rich man was and why he was throwing money around like that, and she thought it was Junkai. The girl decided to send Huang Junkai away, believing that he could not even buy her a handbag, and for some reason Chen Yuan transferred the money, which confused her. The lady began to regret her action and wanted to know where the hero got such money. And she wrote asking what was going on and did not understand her relationship with Shu Lele. After not receiving an answer, she began to suspect that she had made a mistake and wanted to return the things, and then even thought that the guy no longer loved her. Lin Shutong was confused as she received no replies, and she continued to write anxiously. 15 missed messages had already passed, and the girl was not going to stop. At this moment, the hero decided that Lin Shutong was too talkative, turned on Do Not Disturb mode. After that, he thought that Shu Lele was not so hasty in this regard. Using his phone, Chen Yuan began to think about where else he could spend so much money on a woman. He decided to try spending it on live broadcasts. Going live to one of the girls, she said that she would only be online for an hour, and that she should hurry up with gifts. The hero decided to write that he wanted to be her friend, but the chat began to mock him and believe that he would not even be able to transfer 100,000 yuan. After reading the comments, he realized that he would have to spend a lot more than on a bag to be in the right place. Clicking on the most expensive gift, the hero decided to send it. The lady from the broadcast was deeply grateful to him and expressed her gratitude by saying that she had feelings of love for him. However, then something happened that she could not have foreseen. More than 100 expensive gifts were sent to him, and this was repeated several times. 100 rockets cost 1 million yuan, and he sent them to a complete stranger with whom he just wanted to maintain friendly relations. Commentators continued to ask him for money. They were shocked by what was happening, because they also wanted to receive a certain round sum. But they didn't know that this guy who generously gave gifts was an ordinary student living in a dormitory. And he decided to please everyone on the broadcast a little. By clicking on many different missiles, he reached the number of 900, deciding to send them. Again, many of the most expensive gifts were given, and now their number has already exceeded 1,000. Hundreds of notifications were received on the phone that the most expensive gift in the amount of 100 pieces had been sent. Events unfolded in the company's office. One of the employees suddenly appeared in front of the boss and shouted that an unknown rich man had sent one of the streamers 10 million yuan. The boss instantly thought that it might be a scammer and decided that the person who sent 10 million yuan was clearly laundering money. Events continued in the streamer's lounge. All the girls were discussing how some unknown rich man was giving a huge number of gifts, and they also wanted to receive their gifts by writing a message to him. The hero's phone immediately began to ring with many messages, since the girls knew that even a few rockets would cover their monthly salary. The streamer herself thought it was a dream, but then realized that she had actually been donated 10 million yuan. Pinching her cheek, she still realized that she was not in a dream. At the same time, one of the employees came up with a sign that said that the boss said to get even more gifts from the lone wolf, and he was giving an extra 10%. The smart streamer knew that she didn't even need to say that she herself would have provided such a big fish for others. Having blown a kiss, the girl thanked the mysterious rich man and asked to send a personal message, as she was going to respond gratefully. Chen Yuan's phone received several messages from the streamer, who asked if it was him. Her broadcast would last another 5 minutes, and begged him to answer the message. All of them remained unanswered, because the mysterious rich man was already fast asleep and could not answer them. Events unfolded the next morning. It was already widely discussed in the news that the mysterious rich man had spent 10 million yuan on social media, and his identity remained a mystery. The roommates were shocked that someone decided to spend 10 million in their city. For that kind of money, you could buy several apartments. And they also wanted their share, hoping that today they would have a dream in which they would be the richest people. The hero knew that he spent so much money yesterday, but the system did not connect him with Xiaomir. Instead of being associated with him, he was associated with a member of the fair sex, Shuleli Linlin Shatong, and he couldn't figure out whether a personal meeting with the girl was necessary to link his money to her account, and thus all his money was wasted. Many girls wrote to him, expressing a desire to meet, get acquainted, and be added as friends, and the number of personal messages was enormous. The hero was worried about this, and his friends were impatiently waiting and rushing somewhere, saying that all the good places could be taken away. Then the guy decided to find out what his friends were doing and why he wasn't invited along. As it turned out, they were heading to class, and today there was an open class, and they wanted to enjoy the beauty of Zhao Yuqi. Previously, Chen Yuan ran in front of them, and after class, he did not want to leave. At this moment, he remembered the beautiful Zhao Yuqi. Her appearance was beautiful, and not only the hero, but also all the other guys liked her. Events unfolded in the educational institution. Zhao Yuqi was the president of the Huan University Student Union and every guy's dream. They all sat attentively in the audience, watching this girl. She was great and could play the piano. She was also the chairman of the ballet troupe. She had the second category in fencing, incredible appearance, and many talents, which made her an unattainable dream for all guys. The beauty of Huan University remained unapproachable all this time, and during 3 years of study, no one managed to conquer this Everest. And meanwhile, the girls watched the hero and were amazed by his beauty, as if he had come from another group. The girl sitting next to the ex-girlfriend immediately recognized the hero, and in these couple of days he changed dramatically and dressed up in such a way as to impress Tun Tun, the friend suggested. Lady had the impression that she really liked this guy, but she also knew that she had Junkai and was worried that there would be a quarrel between them. As soon as the hero dressed up a little, the ex-girlfriend's attitude towards him immediately improved, and this woman was really superficial. Looking at the system menu, the guy began to think about how to add Zhao Yuqi to the system. Suddenly, someone nearby shouted for Chen Yuan to show them how to win the beautiful Zhao Yuqi. The insolent people believed that this was impossible and mocked the hero, thinking that the beauty could not fall in love with him completely and irrevocably. Right before the hero's eyes, the desired girl was taken away by another guy, and the others shouted at him, thinking that he was unable to do this. A brave guy approached the lady and asked for her phone number. The embarrassed stranger continued to watch what was happening and had no idea what this stranger would do. As it turned out, he was just looking for a little acquaintance and the beginning of a relationship. However, suddenly someone started pulling away the guy who was trying to get acquainted with Zhao Yuqi. This someone turned out to be his neighbor, who decided to drive away all the guys approaching the girl, threatening them so that they would not touch Zhao Yuqi anymore. The guy fearfully claimed that this was a misunderstanding, and he just wanted to join the student union, where Zhao Yuqi is the chairman, and he needed advice. The neighbor was even more indignant, considering this a stupid excuse for approaching the girl, and insisted that he should leave. The cute girl asked the neighbor to calm down, and the hero suddenly came over, expressing his desire to also get Zhao Yuqi's phone number. Wuxing Xiaofei, seeing another guy, thought that they were simply finished here, and she would not be able to get rid of them. The courageous and generous hero moved even closer and offered his phone to share contacts. The lady was delighted, considering the guy very brave, since he was not afraid to prove himself in front of the whole group. An insolent neighbor tried to protect the girl and invited the guy to join the student union. However, the hero replied that he was not interested in all these student movements. Wuxing Xiaofei, indignant, wanted to know why he needed Zhao Yuqi's number then. Smiling, the hero replied that it should be obvious. It's obvious that he wants to take care of her. The girl clearly liked this behavior, and she was embarrassed and then blushed. Wuxing Xiaofei started shouting that this guy was obviously crazy, and the indignant girl wanted to see how he would remain confident when he was abandoned. Zhao Yuqi decided to give this guy a chance and said that they could try. Meanwhile, the ex-girlfriend and her friend were discussing how Chen Yuan should become her personal dog, and some problems arose with this. The desire for beauty is inevitable for everyone, and there is no need to hide it. And after all, who said that simplicity is bad? And sometimes the most obvious turns out to be the most effective, and everyone loves when they are paid attention to. The system instantly indicated that a new target had been detected. Currently, Zhao Yuqi had no influence, but the hero was still pleased that his plan worked. Friends praised Yuan as he was great today, even managed to get the girl's phone number, and the guys also noted that he had changed a lot lately. If everything works out for Zhao Yuqi, the guys would like her to be asked to introduce them to other beautiful girlfriends. Suddenly, someone behind him shouted and called the hero a smug bastard. These were the same impudent individuals who had previously also tried to start a conversation with the beauty and called him a smart guy. Smiling at them, the guy asked if they would like to continue their attempts to disgrace themselves because they are professionals in this and have a lot to learn from others. This behavior greatly outraged the insolent people, and one of them was literally going to kill the guy because he was too self-confident for an ordinary student. But the hero was distracted because he saw something very interesting. It was Shulele who told Brother Yuan that he was very slow and she had been waiting for him for an extremely long time. Shulele is the first beauty of the Faculty of Arts, ranked 6th in the overall ranking of university beauties, also known as the thunderstorm of heterosexuals. The kind guy replied that he was really a fool for keeping such a beauty waiting, and if she allowed it, he would offer her dinner as an apology. The lady only said that it was not worth doing this, and asked if her brother liked the way she looked, because all these things were bought by him. Without thinking for a long time, the guy replied that all the things look great on her, and this bag just looks amazing. And his ex-girlfriend heard all this. The crowd stood around them, discussing the behavior of this couple. That same bully was crying and didn't understand what was wrong with him. Suddenly he turned around and became thoughtful, as if someone had read his thoughts. It turned out to be Tong Tong, who was crying and screaming what was wrong with her. And after all, she used to be his girlfriend and could not understand what happened to Shulele and why they were now together. The events took place in one of the university buildings. The kind Shulele joyfully exclaimed that she had a gift for Yuan. A girl with a creative bent stayed up late to draw this portrait. And if he decides to get rid of him, she will not be forgiven for it. At the same time, the hero himself realized that this was the first gift from a girl in his entire life. Again, with a smile, the girl asked if he liked this gift. The guy thought for a moment because he didn't know what to answer. However, he soon realized that Shulele had created a decoy for him. Once he spent a couple thousand on her, she thought out in detail how to catch him. Unfortunately, the hero is no longer the same as he was before. While Shulele was thinking that her brother didn't look particularly happy, as if he didn't like the gift. And then he finally answered and asked why he needed this drawing. Unexpectedly, the lady replied that she had created this drawing late, and if he didn't like it, then she could throw it away. At that moment, the hero came closer and said that if not so, then how would she respond to all the gifts that he gave her? The hero decided to snatch the drawing from her, causing the girl to scream, accusing him of being an abomination and frightening her. And then she ordered him to give the drawing, but he decided to keep it as a family heirloom. Suddenly, he grabbed the girl's hand and addressed her. Because, of course, he likes it much more than the drawing itself. The girl's loving eyes continued to look at her beloved. At that time, she understood that this guy was a skilled flirt. Shulele's sympathy for the hero only intensified, and this made him happy. He also realized that the girl wanted to tease him, but he only wanted her money. Suddenly, someone else intervened in their fight. It turned out to be an unknown guy with glasses who decided to separate them. Then he indignantly asked Shulele if she had agreed with her best friend to do her nails and who this guy was. The unknown guy was annoyed that she used to do her nails, and now she was hugging someone in front of everyone. The hero guessed that he has money, and she allows herself to be hugged because of this, and he tries for a long time to win her, but she doesn't even let him take her hand. Watching all this, the hero realized that this guy was probably an ardent fan of Shulele, and he was well aware of such behavior. The girl doesn't like this behavior at all, and she asks who this boy is, because she has a partner or not, and what does he care about this? Here Chen Yuan approaches the stranger, introduces himself, and asks how much he reduces himself. The shy guy's name is Wang Yu. He is also from the Faculty of Arts and has been trying to court Shulele for 6 months. Sighing heavily, the hero knew that this child was lost. Someone in him clearly reminded him of him, and once he also pursued a girl for 3 years. He worked 4 different jobs, trying to survive on only bread and water. Ultimately, she decided to get into someone else's car. The guy didn't like it, and he didn't know how to react to it. However, the truth was that those who leave them motivate to become better. A true man will definitely find a worthy woman. Then he asked the guy to return to the hostel and forget about her, and when everything worked out for him, this girl would definitely see and regret her choice. And these words made the guy happy, calming him down, and he decided to become stronger in order to earn a lot of money. Watching what was happening, the girl absolutely did not understand what was happening here and why her boyfriend was really crying. Realizing that this could cause problems, Lady approached her brother and said that this guy was just her friend, and she never thought that this could cause any problems. Turning around, the hero only said that he did not care about her past. But he also believes that she does not respect him or herself, and decided to tear up the drawing she gave him. She can continue to use the card that he gave to the girl yesterday. Until she understands her environment and learns how to communicate effectively, it is best for them to avoid meeting. Chen Yuan gloated, wondering how she would cope with such treatment, and looked forward to further developments. This was the first time someone had shown such leniency towards Xu Lele. Because of what happened, tears came to her eyes, and for the first time she cried because of a guy. Sobbing, she realized that she really liked the guy, but her actions were unsuccessful. Despite all this, Xu Lele's favor increased by 5 points. It seems that the worse you treat a woman, the more she begins to love you, the hero thought. Now he has ended his relationship with Xu Lei and decided to take on Zhao Yuqi. Looking at his phone, he saw that Zhao Yuqi was broadcasting live. The girl on the stream talked about her specialization in music and dance and asked for care, since she had yet to learn how to interact with the audience on this platform. It's really cute, and maybe she seems cold, but she's actually quite open. Looking at the number of viewers, the hero thought that there were too few of them on her stream, and this was not good. Meanwhile, another streamer also wrote to him, expressing her joy at his online presence. Chen Yuan didn't immediately remember who exactly wrote, and this guy gave him a bunch of rockets yesterday, but today he doesn't remember, and it was just a joke, and he decided to find out if the girl had free time, and Xiaomier decided that today she will dance a dance, especially for him. Reading these messages, the guy knew that she still intended to defraud him of money, and he had spent so much, but there was still no notification of contact with her, and it would be better if he gave all this money to Chairman Zhao Yuqi. Suddenly, a new notification arrived that Zhao Yuqi was participating in the battle. This battle was supposed to take place with an unknown opponent live on air. This event really caught the guy's attention, and he wanted to know how events were developing in this confrontation. It turned out that the famous streamer challenged a new girl to a battle and believed that victory would be in her pocket. It's really hard to predict the winner here because these two are in some pretty interesting circumstances in the battle. A competition began in which 2 familiar girls associated with the hero participated. Zhao Yuqi was noticeably behind the popular streamer in points. Her score was 206 points versus 10,687 for the streamer. The streamer argued that Zhao Yuqi shouldn't even try, since her viewers support her better. And what's more, she has the support of the influential personality Lone Wolf. The entire chat exploded with discussions about Lone Wolf, this philanthropist who gave away 10 million yuan in gifts. The skilled streamer knew that she had experience catching big fish, and the lone wolf was probably already hooked. The competition continued, and Lone Wolf sent Zhao Yuqi a rocket as a donation. At first, not noticing that the donation was intended for her rival, Zhao Yuqi thanked him. However, upon learning that the rocket was not intended for her, the girl was very indignant. Many gifts turned out to be addressed to the new streamer, and the experienced Zhao Yuqi did not even expect such a turn. Lone Wolf sent 1,000 missiles to Zhao Yuqi. This stunning success amazed the girl because she had never expected this. This time, the experienced streamer was confused, not understanding why the gifts didn't go to her. A studio employee approached her and indicated on a sign that the boss was demanding an explanation from her about this. After apologizing to the audience, Zhao Yuqi said that she had urgent matters to attend to. The stream was suspended in what everyone considered a truly shameful moment, and the lone wolf turned out to be a truly extraordinary person in silencing her. It all boiled down to the fact that the hero has the right to give gifts to everyone, both her and others, and she decided to play with him. Thinking about all this, the hero realized that he had spent a lot of money on this deed of gift. And now she has to avoid disappointing her benefactor in the future. At this time, in the office of the streaming platform, someone reported to the boss about the nightmare that had happened. The worker shouted that this rich man, Lone Wolf, had spent 10 million yuan again. The boss was amazed that this guy looked exactly like an oil tycoon. Events unfolded in the streamer's lounge. The girls were discussing that the rich lone wolf transferred 10 million to the girl who plays the piano, and today he is really in a musical mood. The action took place in one of the university dormitories. Zhao Yuqi's broadcast led all trends. Now the girl has become popular and is preparing for a career as an internet celebrity. However, she clearly doesn't like this role because she doesn't want to make men on the internet happy, and it's not a particularly attractive prospect. Career is the most important thing for a woman, and she should be independent both financially and in all other aspects. My roommate got tired of hearing this and asked me to stop lecturing her. Then she asked if Zhao Yuqi knew this rich man who was giving her gifts. The lady replied that she doesn't know him personally, believe it or not, and she really doesn't know who he really is. However, he sent too many gifts and needs to be thanked. This reaction outraged the girl because she had just said that she did not want to be the object of everyone's attention, and now she was going to thank him. Suddenly, the lady exclaimed and screamed. The frightened girl asked what happened. Zhao Yuqi showed the profile to Wuxing Xiaofei and said that she might know who it is, because in her contacts there was Chen Yuan, whose nickname was Lone Wolf. The son of a wealthy man always has the best clothes and the best food, but by nature he is quite modest, always pretending to lead an ordinary life. Having received a better education, he realized that he did not want to be the object of everyone's attention and wanted freedom. One day he met a girl with whom he fell in love, and now he decided to win her, no matter the cost, but like an ordinary person. Zhao Yuqi suggested this, while Wuxing Xiaofei thought that perhaps she had read the novels again. Since childhood, his life was full of the best, and he had to pretend to be an ordinary person, which was probably not easy. As a result, the girl decided to thank him as sincerely as possible. The hero was immersed in his thoughts when suddenly a new message arrived on his phone. It turned out to be Zhao Yuqi, who took the lead. The lady was wondering if the guy would have some free time in the coming days, and the hero immediately realized that the chairman wanted to invite him on a date, but it turned out that she just invited him to dinner, and now they were heading to a restaurant for crayfish. She didn't even wonder where he got so much money from. She just invited him to dinner. The next day, the hero was curious about what Zhao Yuqi was up to. Calmly riding on a brand new motorcycle and singing his favorite song, the guy was full of feelings. Suddenly, he noticed a stylish car standing not far from the girl's house. A man standing near a stylish car asked if he was waiting for someone, and it turned out that he had come to pick up his daughter. At that time, Zhao Yuqi was carefully looking around for her suitor. Not noticing that the girl did not see him, the hero exclaimed her name. At that moment, the man stopped him and advised him not to express himself in this way, and to be a real man. You need to have a lot of money, and he has more chances in this regard. Meanwhile, the girl noticed him. In it, she saw a handsome prince who came for her on a motorcycle in a tuxedo. Considering him incredibly handsome, she ran towards him. The man continued to talk about how he could afford to date her when he had the same car. However, he had not yet noticed that Zhao Yuqi was already sitting on the back of the motorcycle, and they were about to leave. In the video, an unknown man dropped his cigar, not expecting that an ordinary guy would date such a beautiful girl. And now they are leaving together on a motorcycle, happy. Not knowing how to react to this, the wealthy man continues to follow them. He then falls to his knees and begins to cry, realizing that he earned all his money for nothing. The happy lady imagines how they will ride on a beautiful motorcycle, she in a wedding dress and he in a wedding suit. It was love at first sight, and the girl, blushing, continues to cuddle up to the guy. Suddenly, they arrive at the place. They find themselves in a restaurant specializing in crayfish. The dishes there are quite spicy, so you need to eat them with caution. A caring guy decides to wipe the table before the girl sits down. Even in such an unremarkable establishment, the guy does not forget about his manners, which makes a good impression on him, Zhao Yuqi believes. After all, caring for others is a characteristic of those who truly value human relationships, and the hero is truly well-mannered. Watching her boyfriend die of crayfish, Zhao Yuqi thought that this must be the smallest crayfish he had ever eaten. He is so rich, but he chose to have dinner with her at a regular place. It seemed like he just didn't want her to feel pressured. This confirmed her opinion of Chen Yuan, who turned out to be a true gentleman. The system notified the hero that Zhao Yuqi's grade had increased by 10 points, and he had difficulty understanding how this happened. First, the girl began to clean the crayfish. Then, as if they were already dating, she carefully began to feed him. Confused and cunning, she thanked him and asked permission to peel the shrimp and treat him. This behavior really stunned the unsuspecting guy. Continuing to have dinner together, they met her ex-girlfriend with a new guy. The sight of Chen Yuan really stunned her, and she didn't expect to see him here. She even thought that she had vision problems because Zhao Yuqi fed shrimp to Chen Yuan. The first was Shulele, now Zhao Yuqi, and she wanted to understand what was wrong with her. At that moment, she suggested that her boyfriend go to another place, since there were too many people here. Realizing that something was wrong here, Junkai immediately thought that there were many of her acquaintances here. And he loves to eat in crowded places. Suddenly, a silhouette approached the hero from behind. Someone decided to throw money on the table where he was eating. He exclaimed he wanted to know if he was Chen Yuan. This silhouette turned out to be Jiang Kai, who said that he threw in 500 yuan and ordered a seat to be vacated so that he and Lin Shutong could sit next to each other. Money ended up in the most unexpected places, even in a plate intended for food. The captured hero realized that this scoundrel had lost his mind, considering his antics to be a sign of courage. The arrogant brat asked if this was too much money, thinking that it was enough to satisfy him. Meanwhile, the hero discovered something fascinating. His girlfriend was seething with anger, although Junkai tried to provoke her rage. The lady was truly furious that this damn idiot had suddenly appeared out of nowhere to ruin her perfect date. This scoundrel decided that the amount was completely insufficient and began to pull more from his wallet. Suddenly, someone reached out for this money. It turned out to be one of the workers, claiming that if he was given money, he could provide the couple with a new table. This behavior did not please Junkai at all, and he ordered not to approach him and refrain from talking. Suddenly, a woman's bag flew straight into this scoundrel's head, knocking out several of his teeth. It turned out that Zhao Yuqi was not even the owner of this bag. There was a silhouette hanging above them again, accusing Junkai of being a juvenile delinquent, using other people's clothes, eating other people's food, driving with other people's money, and having fun with girls. It turned out to be a giant woman named Wei Xiaoqing, who scared absolutely everyone to death. The scoundrel decided to find out why she was here. Without her presence, he would be invisible to her, continuing his scheming with others behind her back. And this guy is truly just an animal. In a conversation with Xiaoqing, Junkai claimed that all his successes were due to her and that he could not betray her. After that, the scoundrel took the girl by the hair and declared that she was to blame for all his troubles, trying to seduce him. Lin Shutong began to deny all accusations, claiming that he was courting her and that he also did not have a partner. Suddenly, the scoundrel ordered her to be silent, striking her on the cheek. Under the blow, the shameless girl fell to the floor and began to cry. Junkai was outraged that she even dared to look at him, which irritated him incredibly. Suddenly, someone grabbed the scoundrel by the hand and stopped him. It was Chen Yuan, who was against a weakling, hitting women and disgracing himself in this way. Meanwhile, Lin Shutong was watching everything that was happening, and her disposition towards Junkai increased by 20 points. She thought that the hero still loved her. After a few seconds, the location increased again by 20 points. As a result, related object number 2, Lin Shutong, reached 95 points. The counterattack was successful, and related object number 2, Lin Shutong, spent 50,000 yuan, and the cash back for the owner's needs was 5,000 yuan. Now Lin Shutong has become a fan of the owner, and her favor has increased by 20 points, and the system notified her about this. The system also displayed Chen Yuan's characteristics. Age 21, height 179 centimeters, weight 63 kilograms, strength 9, and his physical characteristics were displayed. Thus, he used 10 points to improve his physical characteristics. With ease, the hero restrained the villain, who again tried to hit the girl. The scoundrel reached out to the bottle, trying to grab it. His goal was to deal the hero a fatal blow to the head with a bottle. Reacting instantly, the hero already knew what to do in this situation. With full force, he hit the scoundrel who was trying to secretly attack him with a bottle. There is nothing wrong with being dependent on women, but hitting a woman is already vile. The scoundrel was not going to leave it just like that and sought revenge. Immediately after this, he began to remove the knife from his back pocket. The worried lady warned Chen Yuan to be careful. Using a knife, the villain tried to stab the hero. However, his plan was doomed to failure because the hero became incredibly strong, having upgraded his abilities with the help of the system. Deciding to finish off Junkai, the scoundrel threw him straight to the floor. All visitors to the establishment heard the sound of the blow with which the scoundrel fell. The scoundrel lay on the floor and could no longer resist. This was an unexpected outcome for him. Everyone present was glad that the scoundrel got what he deserved and would no longer be able to offend girls. Calmly, the guy began to leave, taking Zhao Yuqi with him. The ex-girlfriend begged him, admitting her guilt, and asked him to give her another chance to start over with a clean slate. Chen Yuan remained indifferent to her words. The same Chen Yuan, who at night carried her 10 kilometers to the emergency room. Previously, he was ready to do anything for her, did everything possible to make her happy. The one who saved money for 6 months to buy her a mobile phone, which turned out to be not to her liking. The one who always knew about her frivolity and vanity but believed that she would notice him. That Chen Yuan had long since left, and Lin Shutong had made her choice. The ex-girlfriend continued to cry, hoping that her ex-boyfriend would one day pay attention to her again. After some time, Yuan apologized to the chairman for the chaos that happened today, but Chi-Chi asked to call her that. She added that today was wonderful, and she was lucky to see a different side of the hero. The further he went, the more mysterious he seemed, and the lady said that next time she would be the one to treat him. She had a feeling that this guy would surprise her many more times. Her plan actually worked, and she successfully gained Chen Yuan's trust. Events continued to unfold in the hostel. With wet eyes, Toon Toon burst into the room, and her neighbor looked in surprise, not understanding why the girl was without an umbrella, given the terrible rain outside. Apparently, she had learned yesterday about Chen Yuan's generous gesture of donating a whole million to Zhao Yuqi during the stream. And although it was impossible to guess it from her expression, this guy clearly had considerable financial resources. The ex-girlfriend was even more indignant when she heard that the $1,000,000 received by Zhao Yuqi in the air came from Chen Yuan. The roommate found out about this from roommate Zhao Yuqi's conversation, and the news spread throughout the entire dormitory as soon as she expressed it to everyone. Her eyes reflected despair and emptiness. Tears began to flow again, and his expression became gloomy. And then she began to cry, having lost the guy who, it seemed, could provide her with comfort for the rest of her life. Her scream echoed throughout the dorm like a scene from a horror movie. At this time, the heroes were playing an online game with their neighbors. He already had 18 wins in a row, and this guy was clearly in his game zone, and the guys began to wonder if he was really a successful esports player. And all this time, he stubbornly avoided answering this question. However, the guy knew that no one expected that after dividing the 20 gain points, even playing would become easier, and this was really unexpected and pleasant. But of course, he could not tell his friends about it. One of his friends suggested that he become a streamer, claiming that he could catch up with everyone when he started earning millions. The effect of the gain points was really noticeable. His physical form became simply amazing. Even if he called himself an Asian handsome man, it would be a loud statement, and even other Asian handsome men could not compare with him because he had his own system. Such an ideal physique made him unapproachable for cheap relationships with girls. Suddenly, his friend screamed, asking if he was stuck in the toilet and that he needed to come out urgently because his phone was ringing. It was Shulele, and he wanted to understand why she was calling so late. He assumed that this girl was up to something and was trying to deceive him again. After thinking about this, he regarded her with some distrust. Picking up the phone, he immediately said hello, and after that, asked why she decided to call him at such a late time. Shulele was worried and shouted that she did not know what to do. Sitting in the middle of a room filled with expensive things, she screamed in despair, not understanding how to act. Continuing to sob, she asked the guy if he could lend her 500,000 yuan. She then told him that her father had become addicted to gambling and was losing huge amounts of money. Previously, they had a fairly wealthy family, but suddenly they found themselves on the edge of the abyss, and they had to borrow money. The girl emphasized that she was not materialistic, she just needed to pay off her debts, and Chen Yuan kindly asked to give him the card number. Hearing this, Lady Truly was delighted and surprised. In a hurry, in a few seconds, she found the card number and sent it by message. Within seconds, her account was replenished with 5 million yuan. Looking at her bank account, the girl could not believe that there were 5 million in it, and it turned out that the hero was simply mistaken by 10. Suddenly, the girl started screaming at the top of her lungs. Her mood improved every second. Crying convulsively, but already with happiness, the lady promised that she would definitely return Chen Yuan. Her mood reached 94 points. Monitoring his progress in the system, the hero realized that 94 points was clearly not enough. And he even contemplated whether he should act directly. Then he realized that it wasn't worth it, and whoever is the first to admit that he needs another person is in a vulnerable position. In other words, he loses. When two armies collide, energy plays a decisive role, and if the enemy does not dare to act, he must be forced. And this is the art of war. The next morning, the hero and his friends discussed how to get girls. Suddenly, someone called the hero. It was Lin Shutong who cooked the guy lunch and invited him to attend classes together, and all his friends were amazed that the girl herself brought him food. Suddenly, someone else exclaimed that they had prepared something special for Brother Yuan. It turned out to be Shulele, who announced that he was probably tired of table food, so she prepared seafood porridge. The girls' glances crossed, and from that moment, their confrontation began. With every second, they hated each other more and more, and the hero, watching all this, felt tension. Suddenly, someone started calling Chen Yuan. It turned out that it was Zhao Yuqi who brought the guy some beef noodles. The overwhelmed girls also watched Zhao Yuqi, not understanding what she was doing here. They all seemed to be in the ring, ready to spar. Here it is, the power of the second beauty of the university. This oppressive aura consumed them. Chen Yuan embarrassedly asked Zhao Yuqi how she knew about his preference for beef noodles. Yesterday, while they were eating crayfish, she noticed his preference for spicy food, and it turned out that she knew where they made excellent beef noodles. Thinking about this, the hero realized that only the best can be expected from Chairman Zhao. She is so attentive that she is able to notice his tastes, and this is her advantage. Soon after this, the hero thanked her, rejoicing that there was someone who cared about him so much. The lady, in turn, believed that gratitude was not required because breakfast is an important meal, and, of course, it is worth taking into account the tastes of the person for whom you are cooking. When this breakfast turns out to be unexpected, it takes on special meaning. In the imaginary ring, Zhao Yuqi dealt crushing blows. These blows easily neutralized two girls trying to court Chen Yuan. Suddenly, she said that this was not all and handed him another gift in gratitude. It was a brand new iPhone 15 Pro Max. The hero was even more struck by the chairman giving him a gift and a phone of the latest model, and his friends could not understand why they were giving him so much. Seeing this, the girls were also amazed because this phone cost more than 10,000 yuan, and they realized that their rival was clearly wealthy. The opponent dealt the decisive blow and won the match. Chen Yuan began to say that he shouldn't have spent so much because he was embarrassed, and the girl claimed that he spent a lot more money on her and she didn't have much, but this gift was from the bottom of her heart. Events developed at the university. Sad Lin Shutong was thinking about how to bring Chen Yuan back and why it was so difficult. She was desperate because only a few days had passed and Zhao Yuqi had already appeared. Zhao Yuqi suddenly came over and said that they needed to talk. This greatly angered the girl, and she shouted that they had nothing to talk about because Zhao Yuqi was a treacherous woman, and it was all because of her. To which Zhao Yuqi suggested that they unite, to join forces and confront the common enemy, namely Zhao Yuqi. At the same time, the hero was thinking that Zhao Yuqi is really amazing, and she gave him such an expensive phone that costs more than 10,000 yuan. Noticing the hero's reaction, the girl immediately asked if everything was okay with the phone, and indeed, everything was okay with it, and it was cool, the satisfied guy answered. Soon after, the system notified that Zhao Yuqi's favor was currently 40 units. If the favor level wasn't so low, he would even think that this girl was in love with him. She is really smart, and her methods are quite sophisticated, and she allows her prey to think that she is the hunter. And it seems that now it is necessary to find a way to speed up the process, the hero thought. Suddenly, he was contacted by a streamer who wanted to arrange a meeting, and although she was afraid of new acquaintances, this did not mean that she did not want to meet him at all. She even sent a couple of photos, and the hero realized that this girl was hoping to find a rich fool who would spend money on her. Suddenly, another new message arrived. The message was from the Dragon Emperor, one of Xiaomier's sponsors, and he invited the guy to join an interesting group that collected materials on all streamers, and the guy wondered if he would like to join. Inspired, the guy realized that this was the same legendary chat. A few moments later, he joined the group of pictures of interesting content and chatting, where everyone immediately recognized him and decided to get to know him. One of the chat participants suggested an interesting case to him. Then the guy realized that it seemed that these rich guys wanted to test him, but he was ready to play with them. He wrote that if they really needed his help, they should write in private messages. The unknown person said that he had a villa in the Jiang area overlooking the river, which he would like to sell, and the hero was interested in this offer. The guy really thought about this proposal. This area is really for the rich, and the villa costs tens of millions. Now he knew he couldn't afford to buy her, and that made him very angry. In any case, Chen Yuan replied that he was just looking for something like that, because he needs somewhere to store all sorts of things, and tomorrow, or the day after tomorrow, he will be able to see the villa. Suspecting nothing, he continued to walk with Zhao Yuqi. Meanwhile, events unfolded in the mansion. The surprised man realized that the guy was really interested and realized that he was wrong about him, and it turned out that the guy actually has money. The other man replied that they would know if he had money over time, and in any case, even if he was rich, they would still be able to make a rich friend, so they benefited. The Dragon Emperor smiled and asked for the location of this mysterious rich man so that he could later request his biography. After some time, the stranger wrote that they would meet in Jiang District at house number 8. At that moment, the hero thought, how much will Zhao Yuqi's favor increase if he gives her a villa? Events continued at the address indicated in the message. The girl, who did not understand anything, sought to find out why they were here. They were met by a man already waiting for them at the entrance, the same one with whom they were corresponding. He immediately greeted the lone wolf and apologized for not sending a car to pick them up. To this, the heroes simply replied that everything was fine, and the man thought that the guy looked like an ordinary person, but the girl behind him obviously belonged to the refined class, and maybe she was the son of some rich family. It looks like it will be really difficult for them to come to an agreement today. A man from Huanjuan said that he has a small business, but due to financial difficulties, he is considering selling his villa. Deciding to invite the couple inside for an inspection, he suggested they consider the option. The villa measures 500 square meters, and the man invited guests inside for a closer look. The total area of the house is 2,000 square meters. The design project was carried out by a famous designer, and all the furniture was brought from Italy. The entire house is decorated in feng shui style, and if not for financial difficulties, the man would have expressed a desire to be associated with this place forever. The information she heard stunned Zhao Yuqi, as it occurred to her that perhaps Chen Yuan was going to purchase this house, which was valued at tens of millions. The confident guy noted that the view is really good, but there is no need to roll his lip. He can simply say how much he is willing to part with this mansion for. Then the man clarified that he urgently needed money, and although there were several other interested buyers who offered 50 million, he was ready to sell for this amount, retaining, however, the opportunity for trade, and therefore raised the price slightly. Soon after, he stated that the average price was 60 million yuan. Having started to think, the hero sighed heavily, realizing that this was quite expensive, especially for someone who does not easily deceive those with wealth. Surprised by such a low price, the guy replied that he agreed to 60 million, considering this amount to be insignificant. It's incredible that there are those who actually think this price is low, and if he had known this in advance, he might have offered 70 or 80 million. At this time, the guy decided to find out Zhao Yuqi's opinion as to whether it was worth purchasing this house. The girl felt awkward and did not understand how she was related to this situation. It all comes down to the fact that he wants to buy this house just for her. The man felt awkward when he realized that the gift of 60 million was impressive, and he really had great financial capabilities. Overcoming embarrassment, the girl asked if he was serious about such a gift, and in her opinion, even for very rich people, there should be some kind of framework, because 60 million is not a penny. The thought flashed through her mind if this was some kind of trick, and what he expected in return for such an expensive gift. Zhao Yuqi's fantasies frightened her even more. She imagined that for this money he would dictate his terms. She decided to answer that such a gift did not seem appropriate to her, and she could not accept it. But then the hero approached and announced that he had restrictions from the state, due to which he could not register more properties in his name, and thus he offered to register the villa in her name. He also added that he wants to give her this house. This surprised and delighted the girl even more. While she thought that the property was only registered in the spouse's name, perhaps Chen Yuan felt something more towards her. These thoughts made Zhao Yuqi happy, and she began to fall in love with him. He then asked what kind of relationship they had, and it didn't matter to him whether it was his or hers. He didn't feel the need to separate. Zhao Yuqi's favor grew with each passing second. Soon, Zhao Yuqi's position reached 90 points. The hero's acting abilities improved every day, and Oscar is already crying for him. A lady working for a man asked when she and the boss would get a house. The man tried to give a clear answer, overcoming his awkwardness, but in his heart he understood that he might not be able to afford such a gift. The transaction was successfully completed, and the hero paid for it with a card. A deposit of 10 million was left. He was going to pay the rest of the amount after signing the documents, which would take several days. Together, they wished Chen Yuan good luck in owning his new villa. But despite his wealth, he still uses taxis, wanting to be closer to ordinary people, and the man believed that the richer a person, the more modest he should be. And while the lady thought that he was also young and perhaps he needs a secretary. Events unfolded inside a taxi racing along a highway. At this time, the hero was thinking that Zhao Yuqi's favor had already reached 90 points, and when she became his fan, the 70 million spent on her would turn into a personal 7 million, and together with the bonuses, it was truly a great reward. Based on her experience of reading novels, the girl assumed that the next step would be a declaration of love. Chen Yuan had proven himself to be a very generous person, and she was confident that he would make a wonderful father. The wedding ceremony could take place in Milan or in the Alps. The lady even began to think about what they would name their future child. They grew old together, and he still loved her. In the girl's imagination, her life became absolutely ideal, and she had everything she could ever dream of. The taxi driver then exclaimed that they had arrived. They arrived at the university where they both studied. It turned out that the hero was not going to go to university because his roommates invited him to play in an internet cafe. Contrary to his mood, he went and said goodbye to his lover, Zhao Yuqi. The upset girl was sad, not understanding where her declaration of love was left. Soon, the hero found himself in a place where his friends invited him. When he got there, he found that his friends had already played, but unfortunately, he arrived too late and they had already lost one game. He didn't need to worry because they lost due to his absence, and now it was up to Chen Yuan to make amends. After asking the seller for 20 cards, 4 packs of cigarettes, and 4 bottles of red tea, he met Xu Lele, who was surprised to see Chen Yuan here. The guy was also confused and did not understand what she was doing here. It turned out that her father owns a chain of internet cafes, and this is one of them. And thanks to the hero, her family's debts were paid off. Then she decided to treat her savior and was going to make him a regular customer without restrictions on visits. The guy's heart was literally bursting out from under his t-shirt, and he was impressed. Suddenly, several men approached Xu Lele and asked when her father would return the money to them. Then she exclaimed that she had already given them 50,000, but they came again to demand money, and the bandits demanded 15 million, citing interest on 50,000. The angry girl screamed that this was blackmail, and she was not going to give them the money. The impudent man approached and ordered her not to show her teeth if she was not going to pay 15 million, threatening that otherwise she would have to work in his nightclub, because she was a beauty, and the clients would like her, and she would work off her debt in a year or two. Suddenly, Chen Yuan decided to intervene and ordered the scoundrel to leave before he became completely angry. Seeing this, the girl exclaimed that Chen Yuan was her savior and hero. The impudent man did not like this at all, and he ordered his subordinates to beat the guy. They began to run straight towards the main character, but did not yet know what power he had. With all his strength, he first kicked the main scoundrel in the face. Watching the skirmish, the friends were amazed, and Chen Yuan used a masterful roundhouse kick, and they wondered where he acquired such skills. Like in some video game, the hero fought, easily defeating many opponents. Chen Yuan showed up so spectacularly that it was as if they were watching movie scenes brought to life in real life, and it was no wonder that without him, they lost the game. The beaten scoundrels noted that the guy was just lucky and warned him not to get caught by them next time. Xu Leli immediately threw herself into the arms when they left and thanked the hero for saving her, as she was scared. Thanks to this situation, her favor rose to 95 points, and the system congratulated the owner. The number 1 related object spent 5.3 million yuan, and the owner received 530,000. Xu Lel became a fan of the owner, and 5 enhancement points were awarded to him. The joyful guy wondered how to use his new power-up points. Suddenly, someone exclaimed, accusing Xu Leli of lying, because they agreed to join forces, and here she is seducing Chen Yuan. Due to a premonition of trouble, the hero decided to improve his agility as much as possible, fearing the consequences of the upcoming collision. His friends immediately began to push the girls away to prevent a possible conflict, while Chen Yuan had already disappeared into the distance. Events unfolded on the sports ground. Walking through the stadium, the hero thought that he had already finished with Lin Shutong and Xu Lele, and now he had to win the attention of Zhao Yuqi, and he needed to quickly find a new acquaintance. Otherwise, he risked being left without fans. Suddenly, someone from behind suggested the hero to step aside, explaining that he was in the way. This sports arena is the property of their club, where a sprint competition is currently taking place, so it is better for him to step aside. At this moment, it became clear that the girl had some determination, but at the same time, her attractiveness was undeniable. Deciding to take action, Chen Yuan asked the girl for her phone number and immediately left. A moment later, someone demanded that they stay where they were, asking what the couple was doing there. It turned out that this was her boyfriend, and the hero realized that he had better quickly get rid of these thoughts and leave the place. Watching this young man, the hero instantly recognized his face. Previously, this scoundrel had contemptuously called Chen Yuan a worthless idiot and claimed that he was unworthy of Xiao Ruoyu's attention. When other guys approached them, he pretended to help the hero. But when they were alone, he began to brutally kick him. This criminal exclaimed, asked if the guy had seen himself in the mirror, and warned him to approach his girlfriend. Clenching his fist, Chen Yuan realized that this world was indeed surprisingly small. The system has been activated again. This girl's name is Hijing. Age 19 years, height 169 centimeters, weight 50 kilograms, attractiveness index 8.2, and disposition towards the owner 5 points. She became the 4th object with which the owner has developed a successful relationship, and as soon as the favor towards the owner reaches 95 points, the owner will receive a 10% cashback and 22 gain points. This information caused real delight in the guy, because 22 gain points represented an exciting reward. The running competition was about to begin, and the judge called on all participants to get ready. He Jing encouraged her boyfriend, declaring that he was the best and wishing him victory. It turned out that Chen Yuan was also participating in the field. The referee sounded the signal gun, signaling that it was time to start the competition. Everyone started, and the villain took the lead. At that moment, he considered his rivals to be useless insects that could be easily defeated. But he does not yet know which opponent will overtake him from behind. Seeing Chen Yuan, He could not understand how this was possible, because people were not capable of moving at such a speed. It turned out that Chen Yuan was quite capable of this and would easily win this competition. Because of this incredible speed, a cloud of dust rose around him, but he didn't even think about stopping. At the moment, Li Yang is losing to him in the area where it turns out that Chen Yuan has no equal. The scoundrel shouted that they should not dare underestimate him. And suddenly he activated the golden left leg seal. So he decided to demonstrate who the king and god are here. Looking around, Li Yang did not notice anyone nearby. Chen Yuan had already completed one circle and invited the scoundrel to prove his strength, not with words, but with actions. The scoundrel could not believe what was happening, because only a few seconds had passed. Li Yang devoted years of hard training, but his efforts were no match for the system's capabilities. The host shouted for all the spectators to watch carefully, because the guy on the track was literally flying, developing incredible speed, and even the permanent champion could not withstand such an onslaught. And in just 50 seconds, Chen Yuan covered the entire distance. Brave Chen Yuan achieved his cherished goal and won this competition. Stunned, He Jiying could not believe her brother Li's defeat. Everyone looked at the emergence of a new champion who broke all previous records and doubted even that he was human because no one knew anything about him, and he was not declared as a participant in this competition. Suddenly, some men approached him, noting that the young man had demonstrated amazing abilities, and if he was interested in developing in athletics, they invited him to join the national team. The former champion began to sob as he expected to hear exactly these words from his coach. The hero thought for a while and apologized, saying that he was not interested. All this time, He Jiying was watching Chen Yuan and thinking about his masculinity. Her favor began to strengthen, increasing by 5 points. Suddenly, Li approached her and asked what she was thinking about. The lady just replied that it was nothing. She just felt a little worried about him. The goodwill at this time continued to grow with every second. This really made the hero happy. Events took place in one of the dormitories. Zhao Yuqi happily entered the room and told her neighbor that Chen Yuan had given her a house. Wuxing Xiaofei was amazed by such generosity, and the girl replied that they would go watch it together today. He bought it for 60 million, and Zhao Yuqi warned that if the old man who is selling the house decides to change his mind, then she will simply destroy it. And Chen Yuan said that everything that belongs to him belongs to her. The neighbor asked me to stop bragging and decided to look at real estate prices. Suddenly, she discovered information on one of the forums that Chen Yuan was the main heartthrob of Huan University. This news truly shocked the girls, and they did not expect such a turn of events. The hero was also confused by this news, and he wanted to understand what kind of jokes were, because he is just a boy who likes to spend money, and these statements are slander. Then he began to think that it seems that his popularity has been growing lately because of this, and some people don't like it, but he hasn't been able to figure out who yet. Some villains decided to publish this news, and it took first place in the ratings, and now the hero's reputation will really be ruined, they thought. That guy couldn't understand why his friends were sitting with the curtains closed at noon. They didn't even notice the guy come in and told their brother that Chen Yuan had been showing arrogance lately, so they decided to play a little joke on him. Immediately, he recognized the guy who had entered unannounced and won the competition. It was the loser he beat earlier. Then the smartass said that he knew him and they went to high school together, and he was always a jerk, knew a lot of details about him, and the term ladies' man didn't suit him at all. Rather, he is a suck-up who clings to girls with a death grip. All the guys were looking forward to finding out what exactly his brother knew about him, and decided to write it down and post it on social networks, suspecting that if this guy won the competition and won the favor of the coach, then he will do everything possible to destroy his reputation. The article also claimed that Chen Yuan was not only a ladies' man, but also a scumbag from Huan University, keeping in touch with a large number of girls, objectifying them, and even using physical force against them. Suddenly, another publication appeared about the scandal, where people who dealt with him confirmed that they were being persecuted by Chen Yuan and were forced into relationships under pressure, and such behavior could not be called adequate. Information also surfaced that during his high school years, Chen Yuan was known as a suck-up, harassing hundreds of girls and boys, and anyone subjected to his attentions suffered deteriorating academic performance and overall health. Everyone who read this was shocked by what they saw because no one expected such behavior from the guy. At the same time, some could not tolerate it, since such behavior went beyond all limits of acceptable. The director of the university decided not to allow this to happen in his institution and decided to conduct a personal investigation to determine the veracity of the accusations. And if everything turns out to be true, then Chen Yuan will be expelled from the university. Chen Yuan, a humanities student at Huan University, turned out to be a special person despite his wealth, and he hated when girls suffered. What happens in his life indicates that he is a fair and selfless person, always ready to help those in need. Every evening, he turns into a hero, punishing villains and protecting the city. Powerful and mysterious, he guards this city full of desires and sin. Zhao Yuqi sincerely considered Chen Yuan to be a true hero. However, some disagreed and wanted to know on what basis she came to this conclusion. The lady replied that this was her feminine intuition. The director listened carefully to the student council president, and despite her slightly strange behavior, he had no reason to suspect her of lying. And apparently Chen Yuan is an absolutely normal guy. The skeptical man decided to interview other students, believing that no one could be more ideal than himself. The events took place in one of the university dormitories. Outside the dormitory, security began interrogating students, asking them questions about Chen Yuan. The next person to be interrogated was Lin Shutong, crying in the office, and she stated that Chen Yuan is a good person, they just don't suit each other, and money is important to her, and Yuan has his own principles, and she said that she understands his choice and does not have claims. The sensitive girl was upset, but emphasized that Chen Yuan was truly a good person, and thinking about him made her heart break. The guards were amazed that a girl could like such a guy, especially since he rejected her, and yet Lin Shutong continued to consider him a good person. Sincerely believing that she did not deserve his attention, Lin Shutong claimed that Chen Yuan had always treated her well, and he had never done anything wrong, and he simply stopped loving her. The director left his office, unable to listen to this any further. As he lit a cigarette, he wondered if he had made a mistake, and perhaps the people on the forum were simply trying to harm him, a good person. Suddenly, the director noticed several people passing by his office through the window. The dean greeted them and asked what brought them there. Among them was Shu Lele with her father, and she is from the Faculty of Arts, and they came to support Chen Yuan. And a few days ago, he helped their family a lot, so they were for justice and supporting Chen Yuan. The dean of the university was really surprised that Chen Yuan was being talked about again. Looking at these people, the man again began to wonder if he had made a mistake about them and decided to look at the forum again. Going to the page with the publication, he found a very interesting answer. The unknown girl noted that if Chen Yuan is considered a ladies' man, then she would like such a guy. There were also video publications on the forum in which the hero won a running competition. Everyone considered him very courageous. Girls fell in love with him at first sight. They couldn't understand how they could call such a man names, and they didn't intend anything but love, and his smile was like a ray of sunshine. And the more successful a man is, the more envious he has. The man couldn't believe his eyes when he discovered that all the commentators were girls, and Chen Yuan was indeed the idol of all the girls. And then the man remembered something long forgotten. Previously, he was the best among the best, and all the girls died from his attention and wanted to be with him. But overly ideal people are subject to certain difficulties. The teachers refused to teach him, kicked him out of class, and demanded that he come with his parents. The dean was worried about this story and even shed tears, sincerely understanding the hero. At that moment, he decided to get to the bottom of the truth, and such humiliation and slander should not take place at the university, because he was its head and would never allow something like this to happen. Sometime later, events unfolded on the podium. The director announced to all students that false rumors had recently spread online about a university student, and he conducted his own investigation and found out that all the accusations were just gross slander. By gathering here, they intended to restore Chen Yuan's good name, and he led a correct lifestyle, was fair, and was always ready to help without making it a reason to brag. Chen Yuan became a real pride and the most good-natured person in their university. The principal praised him and presented him with an award, then addressed all the students, saying that they needed to learn from Chen Yuan in order to become as useful to society. In response, all the students began to applaud and shout that they would all follow Brother Chen Yuan's example. While the hero himself was embarrassed, and he did not quite understand why he was being awarded this certificate of honor, and as it turned out, it was for fair help to others as well as for fair and equal treatment of people. While the scoundrel could not understand what he was doing wrong, and his messages on the forum should have ruined his reputation, but it turned out the other way around. He thought that the dean, the teachers, they had all lost their minds, and this was all impossible, and after all, he should be standing on the stage, not Chen Yuan. Even He Jing exclaimed that Chen Yuan was indeed very good. The new girl's rating immediately increased by 10 units. He Jing was embarrassed and continued to clap as if she had fallen in love. Sometime later, the students began to disperse. Li Yang wanted to figure out what was happening with He Jing, and she applauded Chen Yuan, almost squeaked on the podium, and at the same time, Li Yang was outraged by an unreasonable attack of jealousy, because she admires this person who really deserved it. After all, he is just a student, but he has done so much good, and yet he is not attracted to wealth and status. The girl began to remember how beautiful Chen Yuan looked at the race. When he passed her boyfriend, he could have just stood there proudly and accepted congratulations, but he behaved humanly correctly. The evil scoundrel began to shut up the girl and shouted that the hero had not overtaken him, and this could not happen. The lady began to cry, screaming for him to let her go because she was in severe pain. Li Yang seemed to go crazy and shouted that Chen Yuan is not capable of anything. He is just a suck-up, and only the coach noticed him. And in society, money and status decide his father can afford a Tesla, while this guy has nothing. At this time, Chen Yuan, unaware of anything, was talking on the phone and asked him to pick him up, but not to show his wealth or take an expensive car. When suddenly a luxurious Rolls-Royce pulled up, it turned out that it was the owner of the mansion who was in a hurry and forgot about Chen Yuan's preference to be closer to ordinary people, and this would not happen again. Opening the door for the guy, the owner of the Rolls-Royce asked him to sit down more carefully so as not to hit his head. Then the girl decided to turn to her boyfriend and say a few words to him. Namely, that they need to break up because he doesn't trust her at all. Li Yang's life seemed to have collapsed at that moment, and he couldn't believe that so many negative events could happen in just a few days. Events unfolded in the city's central bank. The hero made another payment to pay for the mansion. Thus, the man's account received 50 million yuan, and he said that Chen Yuan was truly a pleasure to deal with. The seller was delighted with the guy, and now they were even, and he was asked to take him to the university. But the hero refused, saying that his car was too famous and he would get there himself. Walking down the street, the hero thought that the house had been bought, and now he needed to wait for Zhao Yuqi and a little more favor, and 25 attribute points would be in his pocket. While leafing through his correspondence, he discovered something interesting. The chat was actively discussing a man who sold his house, and everyone admired the lonely guy. And after all, he not only helped with financial issues, but also bought a villa for his girlfriend. And at that moment, the rest felt not so successful. The hero responded kindly to these comments, emphasizing that he was always ready to help. And then another person offered him a car, and Chen Yuan realized that he could give the car to Zhao Yuqi. Sometime later, he visited a car dealership. He was met by Zhang Haotian, whose family owns a small business, and he was also the owner of a car dealership and was glad to meet the lone wolf. After looking at the business card, Chen Yuan realized that he was dealing with the Jiang Corporation. It was one of the biggest companies in town, and this guy grew up with a golden spoon in his mouth. Sharing this realization, the hero understood that he could afford to buy any car from this man. Then he expressed admiration for how young and promising Mr. Jiang was in running a car dealership. At that moment, the man turned to Mr. Lone Wolf and asked to call him simply Brother Zhang, and when he first heard about him, he imagined a fully grown man. The sellers, watching what was happening, became thoughtful, seeing how the director personally accompanies the client, and suggested that this was probably the son of some rich man. The gentleman was not trying to brag, but his showroom in this city features the best premium cars. Here you can find any car, and the hero expressed a desire to buy a Bugatti Chiron. To such a request, the seller found himself in a quandary, not knowing what to answer. The hero presenting this car seemed to him to be a joker. This premium car, produced in a limited edition and costing an incredible amount of money, raised eyebrows. Without emotion, the hero asked if they had one in stock. The seller offered a Lamborghini Veneno, but Chen Yuan wanted a Pagani Zonda. The director was confused, thinking that this guy might just be kidding, and after all, this showroom features cars costing from $2 to $8 million. The hero, as if mocking the director, said that he really has nothing special, and it seems that his business is not very developed. After receiving this answer, Mr. Zhang thought that although he could buy a house worth several million, he still found it difficult to believe that he could afford such cars, and it was time to reveal his treasures. Although there were no cars listed by Chen Yuan, the director was going to show him the most expensive car in their showroom. And so he introduced Ferrari LaFerrari. This car is equipped with a 6.3-liter engine with a capacity of 800 horsepower and accelerates to 100 kilometers per hour in 3 seconds and reaches a top speed of 350 kilometers per hour. And all this for just 22.5 million yuan. Not knowing what Chen Yuan would answer, the director asked what he thought about it. At that moment, Chen Yuan was thinking that Ferrari was not too expensive, but not very cheap, and decided that it could be a gift for Zhao Yuqi. After finishing his thoughts, the guy said that 20 million is a very reasonable price, and he really appreciates Brother Zhang's efforts, and he said that he would pay by card and asked him to deliver the car to his house in Jiang District. The director was dumbfounded and could not find words in response, and he only extended his hand to the card with which the hero was going to pay. Suddenly, Liu Wenjie's phone rang, and Chen Yuan didn't understand why it was suddenly ringing. As Chen Yuan picked up the phone, he heard his friend Liu Wenjie start screaming that his girlfriend had cheated on him. It happened on his birthday, when his girlfriend Liao Jia went to her friend's to get a manicure, and by the evening she was still not there. Without an umbrella, Liu was in a panic, and he ended up witnessing a terrible scene. Because he witnessed a scene that broke his heart. He saw her kissing another guy in the rain while he was getting wet like a mouse. The image of this picture appeared in his head. They were kissing, and he was getting wet. This caused him incredible pain because they had been dating for 3 years, and he was already planning to introduce her to his parents. Trying to stop his friend, who had already drunk his 8th bottle, Liu almost went on a drinking binge, wanting to simply drown in alcohol. The crying neighbor wanted to know what he had done wrong and wondered if he could get his girlfriend back. Then Chen Yuan ordered his friend to come to his senses, explaining that this situation was not his fault, but her, and he needed to be proud and not become a mumbler. His friend really understood the complexity of the situation, but was at a loss, not knowing what to do. He couldn't just accept what happened so easily, believing that it was a mistake and Liao Jia was actually a good person. Then the hero decided to give him a little lesson and started calling someone. Confused, the friend watched as his friend called, and Chen Yuan asked him to trust him, explaining that he had a plan. And then Liao Jia appeared, crawling on her knees. It turned out that the hero called Brother Zhang to warn him that he would buy a couple more cars, not very expensive, about several million, and asked to organize reliable drivers who were ready to drive tomorrow. At this moment, the friend did not understand what two personalities were hiding behind Chen Yuan. He also called Shulele, expressing his desire to meet her today. Watching all this, the friend saw Chen Yuan's character change dramatically within an instant, as if he had been replaced. Everything happened in the city at night, somewhere near the shops. Shulele threw herself into the hero's arms, saying that she missed him very much. After just one call, this 8-rated girl came running, and the friend couldn't understand what happened to the suck-up Chen Yuan he knew before. And in fact, now it was more like the girl was trying to suck up to him. A few minutes later, Chen Yuan introduced his friend, Liu Wenji. People couldn't believe that Chen Yuan called her so late just to introduce her to his friend. But on the other hand, she saw it as a sign of affection from Chen Yuan to his inner circle. This could mean that he still likes her. The cunning guy exclaimed that, of course, this was not so, and he would like her to help them tomorrow. All this took place in a luxury supercar. A friend's ex-girlfriend was talking to her new boyfriend, who told her not to even think about her ex, because she was never happy with such a simpleton. And he also clarified that in a couple of days she would receive her birthday, and he will give her a new designer handbag. Suddenly, another supercar started chasing them. And finally, he caught up and overtook them. The impudent man seemed to go crazy, not understanding how the driver who overtook him could drive the car so well. The chase began, and the villain tried his best to overtake, but nothing worked. Then he called the driver a freak who, in his opinion, simply bought a license. And suddenly he saw something that he did not expect at all. A girl with perfect curves, glowing skin, and a luxury car with blinding headlights began to get out of the car. The car looked absolutely amazing, and the guy couldn't even remember what he had just said. A stylishly dressed and confident young man, looking incredibly pretentious, also got out of the car. The ex-girlfriend couldn't believe her eyes when she saw Liu Wenjie. Although her hands were shaking, she tried to calm the situation, saying that she was very scared because Liu had just given her this new car, and her brother replied that if there had been an accident, he would have simply bought her another one. The ex-girlfriend's current boyfriend couldn't understand what happened to Liu, and he always seemed to hide his wealth, despite having rich parents. The ex-girlfriend continued to closely monitor what was happening. In the end, she decided to get out of the car and asked Liu to explain what kind of show he was putting on, and Liu, without showing any emotion, only replied that no one loved her and asked to return to the car. She then announced that she knew a lot about Liu, including his age and marital status, and she admitted that she cheated on him, which was a mistake. But today's performance simply shocked her, and she completely lost interest in this guy. Zhang at this time realized that the woman had seen the light, and Chen Yuan asked to continue, claiming that the most interesting thing was in front of them. Several supercars began to move along the track. Elite cars were approaching the scene. They all started parking right on the roadway. In surprise, the ex-girlfriend and her boyfriend simply watched what was happening. A rich guy got out of one of the cars, noticing that Liu Wenjie was also present. He walked over to greet the current guy and see if he knew who this gentleman, Bai's brother, was. The brother approached them and introduced himself as Ma Kai, claiming that his family owns coal deposits and he is studying in America. In fact, this guy was a common liar who pretended to be rich in order to get beautiful girls, and she naively thought that he was rich. His tricks were old, and no one could believe that anyone was falling for them. The people around her said that the girl should look at herself, because she is not even worthy of a poor man. At that moment, she began to curse her ex, realizing that his goal was to deceive her, and she even thought about murder. The accused turned away and began to leave. Suddenly, the guy stopped for some reason. The girl literally begged Wenjie not to leave her, explaining that she was not vain, just from a poor family, and asking on her knees for another chance. But her brother told her not to touch him. From that day on, they cut off all ties, and he forbade her to call or write. The guy at this time was planning to quickly disappear, avoiding attention. Chen Yuan decided to stop him because he would not leave here just like that, and a slap in the face would not be enough for him. They all gathered around the vile man and inflicted a well-deserved punishment on him. Sometime later, the events moved to a nightclub. Brave guys tell each other how lucky they are to meet Mr. Lone Wolf. The hero, at this time, wanted to thank everyone for their help, since now he had new friends. One of the guys said that he had heard about Chen Yuan's activities on the streaming platform and would like to ask for some help. This request really surprised the guy. He wanted to support the streamer that his fan couldn't afford to support this month and see if his brother could help. Hearing such a request, the hero immediately realized that these rich children looked down on everyone. Mr. Zhao tried to dissuade the guy, considering his actions strange, since a lone wolf should not support an unfamiliar girl. And after that, he told the hero not to pay attention, since it was just a joke. This behavior angered Chen Yuan. The whole club saw that the guy was angry, and now something interesting promises to happen. Suddenly, he unlocked the phone and said that it would be as a gift. Then he gave up the phone altogether and decided to go to the toilet, leaving the guy a chance to play. In response, the hero shouted that he could spend as much as he wanted. No one could believe these words, but the guy himself realized that they trusted him so much that he could spend as much as he wanted. At this time, he really turned on the stream and realized that he could afford a lot. As he went to the toilet, he thought that it could have been much worse if he had been forced to pay the bill. He didn't worry about doing anything else like that because the system would pay for it anyway. Without suspicion, the guy went to the toilet with the hero. Suddenly finding it, he felt like a bird next to a huge dragon. This beefy guy was acting rather strange in the toilet. Meanwhile, the whole company gave many gifts to the streamer. They were excited and had already donated 6,000 rockets. The unsuspecting Chen Yuan tried to understand why so many people had gathered around. The same guy begged the lone wolf to save him. As it turned out, due to his long absence, they managed to spend 20 million. All these people did not understand who this lone wolf really was, as if his family was richer than the Bank of the Underworld. At a time, this guy spent a maximum of several tens of thousands, and at most a little over 10 million. And when he thought about how many sports cars he could buy with that money, he felt hot. Thinking again, the hero decided to increase the amount to 60 million. Feeling awkward, the guy stopped him, claiming that the streamer was really not worth such a high price, and Chen Yuan was truly an amazing person. The gentleman asked the guy if he would admit to failure, since people like Chen Yuan deserve respect for their tests. Then Lone Wolf confessed and apologized for his rudeness, considering this day a good lesson, and now he will become part of his team. The girls in the club watched the guys and realized that Chen Yuan plays an important role in this company, and it was reminiscent of a party of rich children from high society, where, when communicating with them, one would not have to worry about money. And the lone wolf seemed like a mysterious rich man who paid 10 million for the streamer. Suddenly, the hero received a new message. He said that he had urgent matters to attend to and had to leave, asking his friends to continue their vacation. One of the guys thought that the hero left in a hurry, fearing that he would be presented with a bill, but others believed that he had previously spent tens of millions. At that moment, a famous streamer wrote to him, returning to the city and looking forward to meeting him. After such a wait, the moment of enjoying attention came, the hero thought. Sometime later, events unfolded at the airport. The famous streamer was thinking about the upcoming date, counting on a little feminine charm to win over the rich heir. This young man from a wealthy family was supposed to become a kind of goldfish for her. The scene developed in one of the city cafes. The hero received a message from Lin Shutong in which she expressed her desire to start the relationship again, and in her message, she mentioned a pleasant dream in which they were already married, living together in a villa, and the hero went to work every day. Ignoring her message, the hero simply deleted the dialogue and began communicating with the streamer. Then she remembered the words of her boss, who warned that even the most devoted fans could not compare with what he managed to donate, and he argued that she should do whatever it takes to keep him interested in her, even if it means intimate relationship. With such an attractive guy in front of her, she wondered how he allowed such distractions, and the girl was confident that she could change the situation. She then decided to emphasize how young and rich the gentleman was. He must be in a high position. But suddenly the system indicated 60 points and showed that this indicator was too high and could not be improved. And then the hero realized that all this money could be wasted. A little embarrassed, Chen Yuan decided to lower his favor level. He began to behave inappropriately, stating that he did not hold a high position, but was unemployed without education. This answer confused the girl, and she tried to find out whether he really did not have a job, and perhaps he was the owner of a business. Otherwise, where did he get so much money? However, it turned out that this was not a business, and Chen Yuan simply said that he was spending his father's money and his company went bankrupt, leaving several million in debt to the bank. Smart Yuan took the girl by the hand and said that he had actually met her to ask her to return some of the money he had given her, and she reacted with an expression of disgust, claiming that the guy did not even wash his hands. The girl's favor dropped sharply by 20 points, and she said that if he doesn't have money, then he shouldn't act like he has it, and she emphasized that she doesn't want to be the object of his show-off on stream and thinks so behavior is inappropriate. The girl's favor continued to decline, and she felt like she was wasting her time. Xiaomier decided to call her brother, telling him that she was at the airport cafe and asked him to pick her up because she was being stalked by a strange guy. Meanwhile, Chen Yuan watched her, thinking that he had met women greedy for money before, but he had never met such a manipulator. Some time later, a guy appeared, burst into the cafe, shouting who dared to touch his girlfriend in broad daylight and was going to teach him that it was impossible to do that. At that moment, the lady saw her brother and felt joy. She was delighted that her brother approached her, especially since a stranger was holding her hand, and she decided to tell him about it. But the brother did not run away to hug the girl herself and to say hello to Chen Yuan, who was nearby. The guy was sincerely glad to see such a meeting and said that he and his brother Bai had fun yesterday. At the same moment, the hero remembered him, and the guy was very sorry that they didn't manage to have a couple more glasses yesterday, and who would have thought that they would meet like this? And today, he decided to treat Chen Yuan. The stunned girl did not understand at all what was happening here. Lan Zong is one of the upper elite of Seoul, and if we talk about the city's golden youth, his family owns industrial enterprises throughout the city. With sadness and confusion, Xiaomier realized that Lan Zong had betrayed her. Lan Zong did not approve of such statements and ordered Xiaomier to shut up because Mr. Lone Wolf was a good friend of his close comrade. He possessed an amount that exceeded the total budget of all the others combined. Hearing this, Lady felt that the lone wolf was testing her sincerity, and would she really miss this chance? The determined Xiao Mier realized that she had to restore her reputation. And then she, like a stupid girl, apologized for her rudeness and admitted her mistake. The system again reminded that Xiao Mier had successfully connected with her, and in order to get 25 reinforcement points, she needed to make a counterattack. The wise guy joked that the girl was too young and therefore stupid, and it was just a joke, and she should relax. These words were clearly to her taste, and her disposition grew with every second. Chen Yuan knew that it was no coincidence that this girl became a streamer, and as long as the opponent had money, favor would flow like a river towards her. And, unfortunately, the hero was not going to let her go. Lan Zong was also indignant when he learned that the brother of the lone wolf spent 10 million on her, and she invited him to such a place. Their meeting was not accidental, and Zong offered to treat him to a restaurant that he thought they might like. A friendly guy invited the hero to join them in the car, and Xiao Mier rushed after, trying to get some of their money. Events unfolded in the car, and every second the girl was getting closer. Literally clinging to him, she hugged him. She then asked if her brother was angry with her, since she had indeed made a mistake. With complete indifference, he replied that everything was fine and he didn't hold a grudge against her. Right in front of Xiao Mier, he entered the streaming platform and started watching girls. The stunned lady could not believe her eyes and was anticipating something terrible. The sinister and cunning Chen Yuan began to lavish gifts on the other girl to make Xiao Mier jealous. A lot of rockets were given to a completely unknown lady. There were 3,000 of these missiles in total, and it really shocked the lady who received them. She immediately rushed to tell her friends and then even fainted, and they were already preparing to call an ambulance, since she had never seen so much money in her life. Xiao Mier continued to monitor what was happening and noticed how quickly Chen Yuan poked at the screen, which, apparently, other people were simply unable to do. They simply did not have such means. Then she realized that, if not for her mistakes, these 30 million could have been hers. Looking at the attractive guy, she also understood that this man was simply mocking her. But he was so seductive when he spent that kind of money. If you just imagine that his fingers were not tapping on the phone screen, but sliding over her body, then her position became even higher. At this time, Chen Yuan wondered what was wrong with this woman, and her favor grew as he spent money on others. Finally, they arrived at the best private restaurant in Seoul, called Black Pearl. Only a select few eat here, so everything is kept secret. 3 features make this restaurant the best. The first 2 features are unique dishes and scenic views, but the third feature has remained unknown. Mr. Lone Wolf actually had enough experience and guessed correctly about the first 2 features, but the third remained a mystery for now. A mysterious girl stood in the garden, her gaze directed into the distance. As it turned out, she represented the third feature, the daughter of boss Zhao Yuqi. She was already familiar with Chen Yuan, and Zhao Yuqi immediately recognized the hero. This meeting left Chen Yuan completely confused as he realized that this was Chairman Zhao. Seeing Xiao Mier holding Chen Yuan's hand, the lady instantly burst into anger. She was ready to literally destroy everything around her, and her favor dropped by 5 points. The incident seriously upset her, and she began to cry. With bitterness and disappointment, the hero watched as the girl ran away, realizing that there was very little left to get reinforcement points. Chen Yuan then realized that he could not afford to fail at such a critical moment. Having caught up with the girl, the cunning guy approached her. Zhao Yuqi screamed, accusing him of cruelty and claiming that he was just playing with her feelings. Meanwhile, the hero himself realized that if this continues, he will lose all favorability points, and he won't do this. He needs to take risks. After a moment, he decided to ask the chairman about the very first rich man. The girl was absolutely uninterested in such questions because they concerned his infidelities and not some movie. With a spectacular gesture, lighting a cigarette, he admitted that he was the first rich man. And he even suggested that perhaps she wondered why he, being from a wealthy family, was content with such an ordinary life. Because there is an unofficial rule in his family. According to it, an heir who reaches the age of 18 must spend 1 billion yuan within a month in order to then receive an inheritance of 50 billion. This is why he spends his money so diligently, spending them on investments, charity, and various environmental initiatives. And this girl, a streamer, received his donations, but this is all just part of the game he entered into. So far, no one except Zhao Yuqi is aware of this, and he does not expect her to fully understand, and this secret has been weighing on them for too long. However, now he decided that he was simply tired of all this and did not want to hide this fact anymore. After thinking for a while, Zhao Yuqi realized that she was stupid because this guy was trying so hard and all this in order to become an heir, and she doubted him. The lady did not want to let him go and begged him not to leave, admitting that she was wrong. The caring hero put his hand on her shoulder, expressing his support. Zhao Yuqi thought that the guy even opened up to her on such a delicate issue as family matters. She also realized that he really loved her. Zhao Yuqi's favorability has increased by 20 points and is now 92. Returning to her company, the lady admitted that she had somewhat lost her usual cheerfulness, but Chen Yuan and her friends supported her because they were not just colleagues, but real friends, and the lady decided to treat them as a token of gratitude. Lan Zong noted with admiration that such a significant change in mood had occurred in just 5 minutes, and he liked how the girl, being essentially a lone wolf, changed her moods so easily. Xiao Mier was very dissatisfied with what was happening and could not understand what kind of game was being played on the lady's part, and she was wondering which of Chen Yuan's friends would be able to win over. The flirtatious streamer drew the attention of the lone wolf because he still had not introduced her to the mysterious girl. The nickname brother brought a smile to Zhao Yuqi's face. This surprised Zhao Yuqi because she didn't even know his real name, but she was already calling him brother, and the girl was ready to bet that the hero was even younger than her. A fight began between the fiery vulture and the little bird. Watching what was happening, the guy was amazed by the power of what was happening, and it was an unequal battle, similar to a real battle. The firebird, named Zhao Yuqi, was ready to unleash deadly attacks against her opponent. The defenseless Xiao Mier couldn't even respond to such ridicule. The hero interrupted the battle of glances, announcing that he was hungry and it was time to start eating. While the girls continued their confrontation with their gazes, they did not take their eyes off each other. However, then they suddenly turned away from each other. Lan Zong was shocked by this behavior and could not understand why the girls did not enter into conflict. Their methods were indeed strange. One of the girls was a famous streamer, a real threat to wallets. The second was a famous beauty with high origin. Lan Zong admired this, thinking that brother must have some special charm technique. Or he's just a tempting demon who was able to seduce 2 girls at once. If before the guy was amazed only by his wealth, now he has become his spiritual idol. He really wanted to be just like Chen Yuan. The events took place in the university courtyard, where the hero thought that this restaurant was not cheap, and thank God he did not have to pay. Noticing this, he also thought about his financial situation. Zhao Yuqi's disposition was 91 points, and upon completion, he was to gain 25 reinforcement points and piano skill. Xiao Mier had 92 favorability points, and her reward upon completion was 25 enhancement points and a dance skill. The affection level of both girls was already quite high, and the progress must have been colossal. And suddenly he discovered another girl in the system, whom he did not immediately recognize. However, he then found out that she was He Jiying, Li Yang's girlfriend, and her favorability was 76 points. and upon completion, she was to gain 22 enhancement points and a dance skill. Previously, Chen Yuan remembered that she only had 25 favorability points, and several days have passed, and now he sees such a number, not believing his eyes, and has he really become so attractive to her? And then some guys began to spread gossip that someone below had declared his love, like a knight on a white horse. This really interested Chen Yuan, and he decided to find out who it was. A huge crowd of people gathered at the venue, and the music was played live. One guy decided to invite musicians to perform romantic compositions on the guitar. It turned out that this young man was Li Yang, who asked the girl for forgiveness for his mistakes and admitted that he was too cold towards her. The girl clearly did not like this, and her face expressed confusion. Walking past the crowd, Chen Yuan continued to watch what was happening, realizing that the scene looked rather awkward, like some kind of cheap performance. Suddenly, He Jing noticed the hero and showed great joy. Throwing the bouquet, she immediately began to run somewhere. Her delight was boundless, while Chen Yuan watched on, amazed at how everything had turned out. The unfortunate guy began to cry and scream after the girl, hoping that she would stay with him. He Jing approached Chen Yuan as she really wanted to meet him again. The conversation turned to how unusually lucky she was today. Holding out her phone, she invited Yuan to add her as a friend on social networks. Just save her number and not refuse. Liang felt great pain and realized that now he had truly lost. His heart was filled with anger, and he could not understand what exactly was wrong with Chen Yuan, but he was not going to put up with what happened, as he was extremely vindictive. At the same time, the hero noticed how the girl's ex-boyfriend was behaving. Approaching him, Chen Yuan began a conversation with Li Yang, expressing his bewilderment about what happened and stating that he did not understand how everything happened, and he expressed the opinion that He Jing probably lives in a rhythm of 7 Fridays a week. This behavior made the ex-boyfriend even more angry, and he thought that Chen Yuan was deliberately bullying him. But it turned out that this was not the case, and Yuan said that, in fact, he was jealous. Because he is handsome and physically fit, he easily wins the hearts of women and deserves their attention. However, once Chen Yuan realizes that he is no longer the center of attention, he becomes lost. For him, victory was key, but he stubbornly ignored the feelings of his other half. In fact, the guy himself pushed her away. He ignored He Jing and did not respond to her messages. And so again, he takes on this pitiful look, but it's time to realize that he looks extremely funny. Li admitted that Chen Yuan was right, and he had indeed brought trouble upon himself. Among the crowd of girls, they started discussing why He Jing didn't get enough attention when they were together, and now she wants him back. These conversations really did not inspire the girl, but she liked something about it. Namely, that Chen Yuan sincerely understands her, and her disposition has increased to 91 units. No one could understand what kind of relationship they now had with Chen Yuan. The roommate decided to come over and tell Zhao Yuqi what was going on here. Events continued to unfold in the student dormitory. Wuxing Xiaofei burst into the room, shouting that Chen Yuan was cheating on her. The lady asked to stop discussing such topics, claiming that it was difficult for her to imagine that he was capable of such a thing, and yet another girl had just seen them downstairs as they confessed their feelings to each other, exchanging glances. The lady was not bothered by this at all, as she believed that Chen Yuan could not control the feelings of others, and words themselves meant nothing. Then she showed her phone, which displayed the amount of money the hero spends on other girls. But Zhao Yuqi had a counter-argument. He told her about this, and in fact, he spent much more than these unfortunate 30 million. He also mentioned the streamers, explaining that their relationship is built on mutual trust, and he trusts her as she trusts him, which is quite normal. Listening to all this, Wuxing Xiaofei only thought how good this girl was, but at the same time, how stupid. Meanwhile, late evening came, and the hero was very tired, wanting only to sleep. At the same time, his brother reminded him to concentrate because he couldn't sleep here. The girls sitting opposite liked the look of Chen Yuan, who seemed sleepy, and asked him out on a date to treat him to a cup of latte. These girls said that they would not come if the hero, the main character, was not there, and they would never rise with the ordinary guys, and suddenly the hero noticed another girl. It was Lin Shutong who was crying because she had left her lover and gone with the rich man's son, and now she believed that she deserved all her suffering. It turned out that she found out when Chen Yuan would be here and decided to join them, and something was wrong with her, and she even went to the doctor. At this moment, the hero immediately realized that he seemed to have gone too far, because she really hurt him, but after what happened, it looks like she truly repents. Her appearance was very sincere, and she was in unbearable pain. Even though she was guilty, she didn't deserve to die for it. The hero was clearly not so heartless. Suddenly, another girl came up and asked Chen Yuan about the rumors at the university that he was that rich lone wolf. Hiding his feelings, the hero hesitated to admit that he actually felt like a lone wolf. At this time, Lin Shutong promised that if Chen Yuan was really that lone wolf, then she was ready to tear off his head and use it in football. Suddenly, a man entered the cafe, claiming that Lone Wolf spent about 100 million on streaming, and now every coin is worth its weight in gold to him. The hero could not believe his eyes when he saw this man. Approaching Lin Shutong, he introduced himself as Li Yun Tao, the owner of this store, and had long noticed a girl like her, after which he asked for her phone number. This confused the girl, but she liked that someone was interested in her. Li Yun Tao had been the hero's sworn enemy since school, and he had always relied on his family's wealth and influence, never hesitating to use such methods. It was because of him that the hero was constantly beaten, which brought him a lot of suffering. At that moment, the hero deliberately provoked him in order to reveal his true intentions. Then, the hero decided that he would give him the opportunity to show off, since he did not want to stand out too much in front of his classmates. Lin Shutong was pleased with the development as she planned to test Chen Yuan. The next moment, Chen Yuan decided to introduce his rich brother, Li Yun Tao, and they studied in the same high school, and now his brother is studying at 985 University, running his own company, owning assets worth millions, and it can be said that he has become wealth embodied. These words shocked everyone present, and they could hardly believe that Chen Yuan would say such a thing. According to him, he really is not the lone wolf that they talked about, and he simply received compensation for the renovation of his house, only a few million. This answer shocked Tuntun, and she was not entirely clear how to react to it. Lady's score dropped by 20 units, but she peered at these two guys, thinking that on the one hand, an excellent student from University 985 with a fortune in the tens of millions, and on the other, a guy who she likes, but is not particularly rich. Just a few seconds later, Chen Yuan ceased to be an object of admiration for Lin Shutong. And then she agreed with Li Yuntao's proposal and gladly gave him her phone number. Because she believed that even a fool would make the right choice. The man approached Chen Yuan and said that his little sister had just given him her phone number. Approaching closer, Li Yuntao stated that last time he destroyed him like an ordinary stray dog, and now he intends to simply crush him. These words only increased Chen Yuan's rage. Stepping aside, the wicked man asked the staff to serve everyone for free, declaring that this was his old friend. This whole situation made Chen Yuan laugh, and he laughed cheerfully. Those present could not understand what was happening and why he was reacting this way. When asked about the reason for his fun, he replied that everything was fine, and it just suddenly dawned on him. The hero realized that he gave Lin Shutong a chance to fix everything, but he was to blame for the fact that she was unable to overcome herself. From now on, the hero decided not to show even minimal sympathy for her, because she doesn't deserve it at all. After some time, Li Yuntao asked the hero if he was going to join his former classmates who were leaving for Juzhou tomorrow. Hearing this, the hero began to think about this prospect. Smiling evilly, he thanked for the invitation, noting that he would definitely come there. Sometime later, the classmates met, ate together, and Li Yuntao expressed a desire to treat them, without intending to skimp on the treat. Suddenly, Lin Shutong, whom the hero of the occasion had been waiting for so long, appeared. Watching everything that happened, Chen Yuan knew that this guy did not miss a single opportunity to show off. A well-groomed girl in an expensive dress and an expensive bag apologized for making everyone wait so long. The reason was that her personal driver went on vacation and she had to take a taxi, which took a little longer than usual. It was Xiao Ruoyu, the luminary of his life during all 3 years of high school. With tender admiration, the hero watched the girl who had just appeared. She seemed mysterious and noble, like a complex equation that literally drives you crazy. Calmly approaching, the hero said that he had not seen his friends for a long time and asked for her phone number to continue communication. Lin Shutong watched what was happening closely and was irritably about to punish the impudent man. It was not difficult for the girl to agree, and, looking at him, it seemed to her that they had never met before. Suddenly, someone noticed that Chen Yuan had not been persistent before, but now he had become decisive. He befriends the sons of rich people and then just stalks them. One of the girls knew that he was pursuing several heirs from wealthy families, including Liu Wenjie, and they were all known for their indifferent cruelty, and she could not even imagine how many girls they had deceived. One of the friends was indignant, believing that such behavior was not suitable for Yuan. But Liao Jia insisted that it was true, screaming that Liu Wenjie was just playing with her feelings and threw her away like a useless toy, finding a replacement immediately after the breakup. Now, her heart is broken, and everyone considers the guy a scoundrel, confident that he has contacted Xiao Ruoyu and is ready to sell her to one of these scumbags. As a result of this whole situation, Xiao Ruoyu's mood suddenly deteriorated. Li Yuntao, impudent by nature, only welcomed this turn of events. If Chen Yuan found himself without money, then he was ready to offer him a job, and after all, he had the opportunity to find a place for Chen Yuan in his company. And also, Li Yuntao was the son of rich parents, and he preferred to work honestly, unlike some people. Liao Jia decided to accuse Chen Yuan of all mortal sins, and Li Yuntao seemed ready to support her, and if this information is not refuted, then the scandal will spread everywhere. At this moment, Chen Yuan realized that these people themselves were entangled in their own intrigues, and the hero decided to write to Zhang Huotian, asking him to drive up to the entrance of the Juzhou restaurant in his LaFerrari. The alumni meeting ended, and everyone was satisfied with the cuisine of the 3-star restaurant. The villain felt satisfied thinking about how Little and Liu Wenjin were now embarrassed to even look up. Then he decided to offer Xiao Ruoyu a ride home, offering himself as her personal driver, and the vacation was unacceptable to him. Suddenly, a man came over and asked Mr. Li to move his car. Lin Shutong was indignant, believing that when paying for food and service, he should not park his car himself. The man explained that after 21 parking spaces are only available to VIP guests, and one of them is waiting, and this rule must be followed in order to satisfy the request. Going out into the street, the scoundrel decided to find out how important this VIP guest was. There were many luxury cars parked outside the restaurant. Lin Shutong was curious which of his classmates owned such a luxurious car. Suddenly, he noticed LaFerrari, which costs more than 20 million, and he had previously only seen similar cars at car shows. And to his surprise, he learned that the car belonged to Zhang Huotian from Zhang Group. No one expected that it was him, because he is known in high circles among the children of wealthy parents, and fortunately, Lin Shutong decided not to enter into conflict with him. Chen Yuan greeted him like an old friend, and the scoundrel was at a loss. The hero then thanked Director Zhang for making him come such a distance, and for Zhang this was not a problem, because now they were like brothers, and he could call his car at any time. The events left Lin Shutong dumbfounded, and he had no idea that the car belonged to Chen Yuan, and he also couldn't understand why Zhang Huotian was so polite to him. Classmates were amazed by Yuan's wealth, and finally their eyes were opened, and they realized that this car belonged to him, and the hero and the director came closer to introduce their former classmate, who also turned out to be very wealthy. The girls began to discuss Liao Jia's words and her attempts to humiliate Chen Yuan. Xiao Ruoyu then realized that Li Yuntao and Liao Jia were trying to slander Chen Yuan. He showed nobility and good manners, not trying to make excuses. At this moment, Xiao Ruoyu realized that this guy was really interesting, and her favor towards him grew every second. Noticing her attention, the kind guy immediately invited Xiao Ruoyu to let her down. The girl happily agreed, getting into his car without hesitation. All of Chen Yuan's classmates were jealous of him, not even imagining that he could achieve such a thing. One of the guys remembered how the director once remarked that the gap between some people is greater than between people and stray dogs. Events unfolded along the night road leading La Ferrari. Meanwhile, Xiao Ruoyu was thinking that she had acted rashly because they had met only recently, and she had already gotten into his car. Suddenly, the hero announced that he had noticed something. Such a coincidence could not be accidental, and the girl was amazed that he knew who Ultraman was. This coincidence of circumstances could not be an accident, and the girl was amazed that he knew who he was. And when the girl returned home, her mother immediately began to express her dissatisfaction, reproaching her for being late. It turned out that the hero also liked this series. He especially liked the character of Dick. And it seemed to him that his form of transformation was very cool, and the girl shared his delight and had watched this series since childhood, but unfortunately none of her friends did not share her interests. And suddenly their gazes crossed. The girl already felt strong excitement, as if she had fallen in love. No one could have imagined that Xiao Ruoyu could be so active and lively, and it seemed that her always distant and indifferent expression was just a mask, a kind of defense mechanism. Looking at her happy face, he wanted to protect and preserve this beauty. That was the first time Chen Yuan felt that he had truly fallen in love. A little later, they arrived at the girl's house. The hero said goodbye to her, expressing his joy at meeting her amazing side, different from the one he knew. A little embarrassed, the girl also thanked the guy for giving her a lift. Together, they moved unsuccessfully, trying to make an impression when parting. Then they laughed merrily together, for they felt a strong sense of discomfort. It's really exciting to be in the company of Chen Yuan, since he doesn't consider her naive and childish, unlike those obese old men. Upon returning home, the mother immediately began to reprimand the girl for returning home very late. She soon showed interest in her daughter's opinion about the upcoming date. Knowing that her father's company was not doing well, her mother knew how important investments were for the Han family at the moment, and it was difficult for them to change the situation. The girl was outraged by this, since no one cared about her own happiness, and she had to marry an alleged playboy from the Han family. The mother replied that this is because they raised her, provide her with food, clothing, entertainment, and she lives at their expense. If their father's company ends, then their family will also end. Although Han Xiaogang is indeed not the best partner, but he is at least the best of the worst. Men take their heads after marriage. The mother was even ready to kneel down and beg her daughter to marry him. This girl already knew everything, but this did not console her at all. Starting to shed tears, one of them fell on the figurine that she had so diligently attached to her bag. After some time, looking through the news on his phone, the hero discovered something amazing. There was a news report that a date arranged by parents could lead to a strong alliance or intense competition, and at the same time, the Xiao family's company is on the verge of collapse due to Xiao Ruoyu's upcoming marriage to Han Xiaogang. This news truly shocked the guy because he had not counted on such an unexpected turn of events. It is surprising that the most beautiful Xiao Ruoyu is getting married. Her appearance was so seductive that the hero was instantly ready to take her as his wife. The expression on his face instantly changed, and he felt at a loss. But he realized that this time he needed to take an active part, not remain in a passive role and no longer just observe. While some people followed Chen Yuan on social media and recognized him from the video. Walking down the street, someone suddenly stopped him. It turned out to be the girl who was following him, and her name was Sheng Shui, and she was eager for Chen Yuan to attract attention on the internet. In response, the hero only stated that this did not interest him at all. The woman quickly sensed that he had flatly rejected her proposal and may have already entered into an agreement with another company, so she had to change her tactics. The concerned woman begged the hero to wait, promising that their company was serious and stable, ready to offer him good conditions. And most importantly, their company is supported by the lone wolf of the rich man who generously distributes money on streamer platforms. If Chen Yuan doesn't sign a contract with them, Lone Wolf might prevent him from entering the media realm. Chen Yuan was furious as the madam next to him was really intrusive, and she kept mentioning Lone Wolf, the same rich man who was supporting him. He didn't think he should listen to such threats. This lady truly believed that he would not be able to answer her. So he decided that if he couldn't answer, then others would. And the guy chatted with influential people to get support, talking about how Sheng Shui was trying to threaten him using his own name, and asking his friends to look into it with this. Sometime later, Madam again asked if he was ready to become a streamer. Suddenly, the woman's boss started calling. In a telephone conversation, he called her a crazy woman and ordered her to immediately appear at a meeting, since she should not behave like that in front of such important people. Confused, the girl did not even understand what to answer him. Meanwhile, the hero understood that no one had the right to take his woman away from him, and he was going to show everyone who was in charge. Xiao Ruoyu would soon have to go on a regular date with the heir of the Han family, and he shouldn't be so sad. The state of their family's company left much to be desired, and the father was stressed, running around asking everyone for help, and now the Han family was ready to help them, but did not ask for much in return. They just needed to make friends. And Han Xiaogang looked like a very humble guy, and it was necessary to establish contact. Suddenly, a message arrived on the girl's phone. It was from Chen Yuan, who wanted to know where she was. She immediately replied that she was going to the Royal Hotel and had family business at the moment, and the guy asked for the exact location, since he was also going to arrive. Compared to this stupid Han, Chen Yuan is much more attractive. The father also addressed her, saying that he had never asked her for something like this, but now they were asking for understanding in this situation. The girl didn't even know what to answer and was silent. But then, with sadness and regret, she still answered that she understood. The events took place at the Royal Hotel. There, the person who was supposed to meet them was already waiting for them. Immediately, he greeted the director and said that Director Han was already waiting for them in the meeting room at number 305, and they needed to follow him. The man had previously heard that the daughter of the Xiao family is an incredible beauty, but it is better to see once than to hear 100 times, and she is truly incredibly beautiful. What a pity that soon young Master Han will leave nothing of her. Suddenly, the lady noticed something very strange. Since it was just a meeting, the girl could not understand why the man needed so many documents. The kind mister invited the whole family to come inside. Director Han immediately met Director Xiao and invited him to pass and asked his son to prepare tea for the guests, because after all, they were almost like one family. The attentive girl noticed something surprising. On the table were documents confirming a joint ownership agreement, as well as a marriage contract for real estate. And this turned out to be more than just a meeting. The girl's father was clearly up to something. The Han Corporation was one of the largest in Seoul and owned many companies associated with various industries, including shady ones. At the helm of the company was Han Sushui, known for his cunning and focus on profit. Han Sushui himself noticed that Ruoyu had grown into an incredibly beautiful woman. The girl at that moment thanked him for the compliment and then secretly told the hero that she was in room 305. Han suddenly came over, noticing that Xiao Ruoyu was also here, and since the last meeting, he could not sleep or eat because she came to him in his dreams and assured that his father would help overcome any difficulties their family had. For such words, the girl could not find better expressions of gratitude. The impudent man hugged her at that time and asked her to be more polite. Suddenly, he grabbed her from behind, saying that they were almost like a family. She couldn't tolerate Xiao Ruyu's behavior like this, and she hit him, saying that no one would want to be in the same family with him, and he should clean up his dirty hands. At that time, her father said that she should not talk to Xiaogang like that, and it was rude. The young lady could not bear such behavior and did not know what to do in this situation. Her father approached Director Han, saying that his daughter was not yet intelligent enough, and he believed that she and Xiaogang were perfect for each other. It turned out that one of the men was a lawyer and talked about an agreement on the transfer of shares, which they could read at the moment. According to the agreement, the Han family will transfer 100 million to Xiao Corporation to purchase 20% of the shares, and on the condition that Ruoyu becomes Xiaogang's legal wife, 100 million yuan will be transferred to the company's account in stages. As for their daughter, the last transfer of funds will take place after Xiao Ruoyu gives birth to an heir for the Han family. Unable to bear it, the girl snatched the documents. After reading them herself, she screamed that there was no question of any marriage or children. She couldn't believe that her father had deceived her, and he just wanted to sell his daughter. At this time, her mother tried to calm her down, but she did not want to calm down at all, because she sincerely could not understand why, if they had problems with their business, they were even ready to sacrifice the life of their daughter. And they shouldn't pretend that they don't know that Xiaogang indulges in gluttony, drunkenness, debauchery, and gambling, and she is never going to marry him. Suddenly, the father stood up and hit his daughter in the face with full force. The confused girl did not expect this from her own father, did not imagine that he would do this to her. Her father said that she is a spoiled child, their family has problems, but she always thinks only about herself. These words hurt the girl even more, and she could not believe that her father was uttering such words. The mother also insisted that Xiao Ruoyu should understand her father because he does everything for the benefit of the family, and she has always been a reasonable girl. And if the Yunhan Corporation falls, then their family will suffer misfortune. The daughter could not believe these words, and she did not understand how her own parents could do this to her. And if the company was in trouble, why not make more efforts to overcome this crisis? The mother did not even listen, begging her daughter on her knees to spare the poor mother. This behavior shocked everyone, and no one expected that her own mother would kneel in front of her daughter. The confused daughter continued to cry and did not understand why the mother was doing this, and she begged her to get up, but the mother had no choice, and they were in despair, and if she did not agree to this marriage, she would not get up. Xiao Ruoju was speechless and didn't even know how to respond. Suddenly, the scoundrel began to claim that she really liked him and that he needed to accept this offer, and he was ready to get stars from heaven for her. Xiao Ruoyu couldn't believe that this was really her destiny. Being born into such a family comes with certain responsibilities. Abandoning her last hope, the girl agreed, and then asked her mother to get up from her knees. The parents expressed genuine joy, and the father admitted that his words were unnecessarily harsh, and he reminded her that she was an only daughter, and sometimes emotions could get the better of her. Given the lack of objections, they prepared to continue the contract signing process. One of the lawyers pulled out a contract, preparing to sign it. The sooner they sign the contract, the sooner the wedding will take place and the money will be credited to their account. The villain, meanwhile, stared at the girl like she was a piece of meat, thinking that she looked down on him and did not want to become his wife. He was interested in how such a cold and arrogant woman behaved in bed. The lawyers, together with the directors, carefully prepared to sign the contract. Suddenly, Chen Yuan kicks down the door and shouts that no one has the right to touch his girlfriend. Turning around, Xiao Ruoyu was startled by what was happening. Like everyone else, no one expected any stranger to appear. The guy was angry and wanted to find out which of those present was the happy groom who decided to take the poor girl under his wing. Xiao Ruoyu felt joy when she noticed that Chen Yuan had actually appeared to her. The villain immediately attacked with his fists, wanting to find out where this hero came from, as if he was bored with life. However, such an opponent did not bother the hero, and he hit him forcefully in the face with his fist. Having lost several teeth, the scoundrel fell to the floor. This man clearly had no talent. All he could do was complain to his daddy. Then the son from a wealthy family shouted at the guards to detain the criminal because he dared to raise his hand against the young master. In fact, the hero came to two old men. One of them was going to sell his daughter, and the other was going to buy her. And yet they were powerless in front of him, because he could make the Han family disappear from Seoul forever. Suddenly, Director Han ordered his subordinates to stop their actions and began to think that the deal with the Xiao family was strictly confidential, and society and loved ones consider it just a date arranged by the parents. And this guy has information not only about the current situation, but also about on how to calculate them. Then the smart man realized that the situation was far from simple. Unfortunately, Khan did not know the hero's surname, but was ready to make a visit when he had the opportunity, and at the same time, the guy did not assume that he had enough competence for such meetings. The son, in turn, shouted that no one had the right to talk to his father like that, and however, the wise director ordered the son to shut up, reminding him that his upbringing left much to be desired, and he advised him to think about his words 3 times before entering into a conversation with adults. The hero also assured Xiao Ruoyu that she should not worry as he would help their family. This promise really lifted the girl's spirits, for she was glad that she would avoid the danger that awaited her from the scoundrel. Taking the contract in his hands, Chen Yuan decided to study it carefully. As it turned out, she was going to be sold for 100 million, clearly undervaluing his daughter, and 20% of the company's shares were provided in the deal, possibly due to age or mental problems. The guy decided to do the following: offer 500 million and acquire 60% of the shares. Everyone present was amazed at what they heard, since the incredible figure of 500 million was surprising. Then the director realized that to be able to earn such an amount, the company's income must be above 10 billion. This man could read others like open books, but it was impossible to figure out this guy. At that moment, the father realized that with an amount of 500 million, he would not only be able to revive the company, but also expand it. However, of course, he is not going to allocate that kind of money just like that, and he has his own demands. The next moment, he pointed at Xiao Ruoyu. This news truly shocked the girl, because Chen Yuan was going to buy her for 500 million yuan.